Seek the truth and free your mind at dogmadebate.com. It'll upset you. It'll make you laugh. But most importantly, it'll make you think. This is Dogma Debate with David Smalley.
Today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2015. This is Dogma Debate. I'm your host, David Smalley. Hello, Alex Jules. Thanks for coming to the studio today, man.
My pleasure.
So happy you could be here. And Brandy's joining us today. Hello, Brandy.
Hey.
And Donovan's going to be here in just a little bit, but he's there's some kind of crazy traffic going on, apparently, in Dallas. He said he left 3 hours ago, and it's normally like a 52-minute drive. That's a lot of traffic to be sitting in. So what we have planned for you today, and I moved this segment to the end of the show because I don't know how long it's going to take Donovan to get here. But we are once again going to fact check your mom, or maybe we're fact checking your dad or your uncle. We're equal opportunity fact checkers. But we had so much fun last time we did that segment that I wanted to bring that back. So we're going to be doing some fact-checking. We do have another edition of Republicans Say the Darndest Thing. We want to talk about the McKinney Police Party situation. Now, I get that that's right down the street from us, and a lot of you folks don't give a damn about local news in Texas, but this thing made national news and in some cases international news for actually what happened. If you don't know what happened, don't worry about it. We're going to play a little bit of audio from the situation, tell you step-by-step what's going on, and then we got some audio from a press release as well that we want to talk about. John Karff is going to join us for News for the Fourth Listener live this time, as well as featuring another surprise presidential candidate. We're not going to tell you who it is now until it's time to do it. And a Wells Fargo ad has caused Franklin Graham, son of Billy Graham, to pull millions of dollars out of Wells Fargo because they are pro-gay. And there's a punchline coming, I promise. Stick around for all of that. Before we go any further, let's go ahead and introduce our wonderful special guest this evening, Mr. Phil Ferguson. Phil, how are you, sir?
I am very well, thank you. It's my birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday to
birthday.
Phil. I knew that, and it's in my notes. I have it right here.
The best thing one can do for their birthday is spend time with friends, and here I am.
Aww. I was waiting for a punchline, but he's
it
just
was a
being
tender
lovely.
moment. Don't ruin it.
Well, we certainly appreciate you and everything that you do for skepticism and the movement, as well as now being a part of Secular Media Group, LLC, and all those fun things. So thank you for what you do, and what better day than your birthday to honor that. So thank you, sir. Woohoo! We are doing a super important project that I want to talk about real quick before we get into Phil's segment. We have some really important titles that we're trying to publish. 4 of those titles are actually secular books for kids. One of them is primarily about belief in general. What is belief? What is religion? From sort of this non-biased, where do beliefs come from type idea. They're pretty short books, but they're geared toward helping kids be okay with confronting these types of topics. And then there are some science books just for kids that we're also publishing. So a total of 4 books specifically for children of varying ages. Then we've actually got 3 more books by late activist Vic Stenger that we have the audio rights to, but we're trying to get them produced on audio. We've got a couple more zombie novels that we're putting out. We've got a Sam Singleton book that's coming out. We've got a book for teenagers who are questioning their faith. That's a very, very important demographic, as well as one showcasing humanism, and then one by Dr. Robert Price, which is the case against the case for Christ. He actually wrote a counter book to Lee Strobel's book. And so these are all the projects going on right now, and we're really needing your help to get those projects funded. So we've created a GoFundMe page. It's gofundme.com/atheistaudiobooks. Now, the cool thing about this is there are tons of rewards. I'm going to put this up on this big screen over here so Alex can see. You got $5, $8, $12. You can enter drawings to get T-shirts. You'll get your name read on the air. Starting at about $39 for a donation, you're getting 2 free audiobooks from atheistaudiobooks.com, as well as all sorts of different rewards. So go to GoFundMe.com/atheistaudiobooks, and you can see all the different reward levels. The really crazy fun ones involve you actually reading the news live on air in place of John Karf. You can actually be our live news person live on the show, as well as being a co-host, even live in studio if you want to, right here on Dogma Debate, as well as being a full-time life member, meaning for the rest of your life, you have free access to all of our login behind-the-scenes stuff at login.dogmadebate.com. So it's a great cause. We're really needing help. It's not moving as fast as we wanted it to. And so the cool thing about GoFundMe is you don't have to wait till the entire project is funded to get started. So as the money comes in and reaches the first $1,000 or $2,000, we can actually start on these projects or release the projects and put in the final money to get them out. And so we've already sold over, and the ad right here says 20,000. We actually just crossed over 21,000 now. We've sold over 21,000 secular audiobooks to benefit the secular community. And so that's what this is all about. We want to do more now for kids and for the younger generation and teenagers. So once again, GoFundMe.com/atheistaudiobooks. Please, it'll help out, and we would love to have you be a part of the show, and the rewards are super, super generous. So go check that out. Okay? Awesome. All right, Phil, what do you got for us today?
Yeah, I'm always amazed how you do that off the top of your head. It freaks me out.
I don't know either. It just kind of rolls out. I have no clue.
That's why this show is so professional.
Well, thank you. Man, you're being super sweet today.
Oh, just wait. No, I'm just.
Is there a catch? What's going on?
No.
Usually when Alex is here, you're extra mean to me. I'm cautious.
That's just live. But besides, if listeners have never seen this show live, you must go out of your way to do so. But we're going to talk about an idea called chasing performance. And I got this big research study from Vanguard, Vanguard.com, which I get paid nothing, by the way. Go check it out. And they did 40 million what they call return paths, were different investment options. And they had 2 main categories. They had where if you buy an average mutual fund and you hold it for 10 years, or you buy an above average fund and then keep checking, and once it falls below average, you sell it and you buy a top 20 fund. And so you're always buying the best funds and you're always selling the worst funds. And I guess it probably comes as no shock. The reason I'm talking about this is that activity, that trading and buying the best funds and selling the worst funds actually reduces your performance. Ooh. So in large cap, it reduces your performance by 2.3% per year over the entire decade they did this. In mid cap, it actually reduces your performance by 4%. And in small capitalization, the smallest companies, it's 2.6%. So, the best case scenario is the large cap where you underperform by 2.3%. Some of the reasons why this might happen is that things in the marketplace tend to go in cycles, and sometimes internet stocks are great, sometimes oil stocks are great, sometimes different things are well and other things aren't. So when you look at the past data, and of course we've all heard past performance does not indicate future results, and you buy the funds that have been doing really well over the last couple of years, there might be a very specific reason why they've done well, and if that specific thing doesn't reoccur, they may return back to their normal or even underperform as that segment or that thing that they invested in that did so well now doesn't do well. So you end up buying high and constantly selling low the mutual funds.
So if you're doing this and you're kind of losing money by missing this cycle, who's benefiting from it?
Well, that's a really good question. I don't know. It's it's one of those things that it's a known thing that if the market makes an average of 10%, the average mutual fund makes 8%. And that's because the average mutual fund has an expense ratio of about 2% when you include the published expense ratio and all the trading costs. But the average investor then makes 2.3% less. So it's all of these expenses and costs that really come into effect. And of course, if you're doing this in a taxable account, you could lose another percent or two of the 5% that you make. So when the market makes 10, you could end up making 4.3% if you're in an average fund and you keep trading funds, and then you have to pay taxes. And I have people contact me all the time, and they look at what the market did last year. It was up 12%, and they made 4 or 5 or 6%, and they wonder how that's possible. And these are some of the reasons. These are some of the big reasons. Now, of course, you can have just a terrible mutual fund, but even an average mutual fund underperforms the market by about 2%. That's just how that works. And I have people contacting me all the time with this underperformance. So what I made is a little list here, and the listeners can go and pull up their statements from December 31st of 2014, because I pulled the year-end data. And they can look at their portfolio. If they're in the stock market, these are the returns that they should try to get close to. If you are in or close to retirement and you have a more conservative portfolio, your returns will probably be a little bit lower than this, and that's fine. But the 1-year performance was, like I said, about 12%. Over 3 years, it's averaged 20%. Over 5 years, it's averaged 15.6%, which means your money should have doubled in the last 5 years. So if you invested $100,000 5 years ago, and now you only have $120,000, you need to look into that and figure out why that is. Over 10 years, it's up an average of 8.1%, because that 10-year time period does include 2008 when the market went down 37%. But even with the biggest single 1-year drop in 45 years, your money went up 120% over the last 10 years. So one of the biggest problems people have with investing is that they worry about, and they should, it's reasonable to worry about the times when the market goes down. Mm-hmm. But most people suffer the most when the market goes up and they don't make money. So when the market goes up 10, 15, 20, or like it did in 2013, 32%, and you only made 15, you can look at your account and say, I made 15, but what you need to do is look at it and say, I lost 18% compared to being just in an index fund. Why is that?
So how can people avoid having this happen to them then?
Well, one of the first steps is to use index funds instead of actively managed funds. And if anyone has questions on that, of course, they can contact me. The other thing is to not get in there and churn your account. Don't buy and sell. Don't trade. Don't hop in and out of mutual funds, because all of the magazines and all the websites will have lists of the top funds for 1, 3, 5, 10 years. If you buy the ones that are hot, you are actually going to hurt your performance. It sounds contrary to what you think should happen, but that's what this Vanguard study is all about. And if someone sends me an email, it's phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com. I can send you the link or the PDF, whichever you prefer, and you can read all this from someone else, not me, but from Vanguard.com themselves, to see how that works. The end result of this, if you invest $10,000 for 30 years and you make just the market return of 10%, your $10,000 in 30 years becomes $174,000.
Wow.
If you take into account average fund performance, if you reduce your in returns by jumping in and out of mutual funds, and then you are in a taxable account, instead of making 10% per year, you make 4.3, your return is only $35,000. So instead of making 174, your account grows to $35,000. And these are the kind of things that get people to look at their accounts over long periods of time, and they say, I'm not making money. It's not the drops that are killing you. They're bad, and they're very upsetting, and you have to protect against that. But it's not making money when the market goes up that is really the enemy for most people.
Well, I was going to say, it seems like the drops are going to be expected. It's supposed to go down sometimes, with the understanding that when it does go up, it's going to be good enough to recover from those things. Is that kind of what you're alluding to? That if it's going to go down. Everything goes down. But when it goes up, you're earning half of what it was supposed to earn. That's when you're really getting hurt, because as it continues to go down, you're going to be losing more than the average person.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you don't make money when the market goes up and then you lose money, that's very painful.
Right.
Every once in a while, I'll have someone call. I just had someone talk to me today that met me at one of the conferences I gave a talk at, and their portfolio is about the exact same dollar amount that it was 10 years ago.
Ooh.
And let's say it's $100,000. If it went up 120%, it should be $220,000, but they still have $100,000. And many investments, and we've had this on the show from time to time, are substandard, and it's hard for you to know what you're making, and it's hard for you to know what you could be making. That's why it's so important to look at something like the total market return or the S&P 500 and at least have a reference point for what else you could be doing. And if you're not close to that, you need to figure out why that is.
You would think, are there people at these investment companies? This is probably a really stupid question, because obviously someone is benefiting from this in order for it to continue. Are there people at these investment companies where you walk in the door and you think you're talking to someone you can trust, and the person, in order to be good at that job, they're probably very charming and they come off as honest, and so they are not necessarily pointing you in the right direction for your own future, but for their higher commissions. And you've made me very, very skeptical about the finance industry altogether anyway, because you'll say they word things like this, but this is really what's going to happen. That's really scary. And so I'm wondering, is this happening because there's some guy somewhere, some investment banker or some financial planner that's actually benefiting off of some hefty commission of you changing your money back and forth all the time, when the responsible thing to do is to not flop in and out like that?
Well, they clearly can. The amazing thing is mutual funds generally do better for people than what I would call products like annuities and variable universal life and indexed annuity life. All these things, the more complicated they get as a rule, the worse they are for you, because you simply cannot compare them to anything. You have no reference point. Matter of fact, on my show, the Phil Ferguson Show, each week we usually talk about something investing. And this last episode that just went up had a product called Return of Premium Term.
Ooh.
So you get term life insurance, but after the 30 years, you get all of your money back. And people know that they should buy term. They hear that in the media, buy term and invest the rest, which I agree with. So the company will now have term plus, or they'll have term with a bonus, or in this case, return of premium term. So they use that buzzword term to get you to think, okay, this is now a term product. Well, if it has anything added to it other than just being straight insurance, it's no longer term. It would be like I get insurance for my car, and if I don't have an accident in 5 years, they give me $100,000. Well, now it's not car insurance. It's car insurance plus. So in this return of premium term, when you get your money back after 30 years, you think, great, I've got all this money, but you have failed to take into account the time value of money, and the money could be 3 times bigger if you had invested it yourself. So essentially, you get 1/3 of the value back, and the insurance company keeps the other 2/3 of the value, and you never know what happened.
Wow. I'm glad this guy's on our side.
Yeah.
Alex. That's good stuff, Phil. Man, that's...
Well, and just one more plug, the Phil Ferguson Show, of course, this last week we had a interview with Jeremiah Kamara about the black churches and how they're keeping black people down. And the week before that was a couple of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that suffered in the cult for 50 years, and they shared with us all kinds of inside information.
Excellent. Well, you can find out more about Phil at PolarisFinancialPlanning.com and SecularMediaGroup.com, where you can have links directly to the Phil Ferguson Show. Phil, thanks again so much.
Oh, not a problem. Now I'm going to go off and do my drinking part of my birthday.
Happy birthday, Phil. We love you,
soon.
brother. All right, take care. Coming up next, a Wells Fargo ad has caused Franklin Graham to pull millions of dollars out of Wells Fargo in protest. Don't worry, it gets funny. More Dogma Debate up next.
Hi, I'm Lawrence Krauss, and I'm looking around the room, and I don't see anybody. So I must be the fourth listener to Dogma Debate.
You're complaining that religion is entering its way into the government, not because you're an atheist. You're complaining because you know that will interfere with rational governance. Yep. So you want rational governance. You would be just as vehement if someone wanted to put astrology in the government or crystal reading. And that has nothing to do with whether you're an atheist. So the fact that you're an atheist means you're actually conducting yourself in ways where you don't have to be an atheist to conduct yourself in those ways. And I've separated all those variables, at least for myself.
I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, not only listening to Dogma Debate, I'm a guest. And that must make me at least the fourth listener.
If you've been missing Dogma Debate, man, it sucks to be you.
So what do atheists want? What do atheists want from Christians in this country? Well, I'll tell you a few things that I would like. First of all, I'd like you to believe whatever you want, but I'd like you to be skeptical in your beliefs, because your beliefs are your own business, but people will try to use your beliefs to control you. Charlatans and others know that you are more likely to do what they want you to do if they tell you God, Jesus, or the Bible tells you you should do it. When you hear those words, beware.
I'm Todd Stiefel, and I'm the fourth listener of Dogma Debate.
Here's an excerpt from The God Virus by Darrell W. Ray.
Every day, religion affects us in ways we may not realize. It makes your Uncle Ned spend hours praying for you. It gives your Baptist neighbor a reason to reject her own child who married a Catholic. It teaches your Pentecostal sister to spank her children to keep them from going to hell. It requires a Catholic priest to deny his sex drive. It causes people to give enormous amounts of money to religious organizations, and causes you to avoid talking to your cousin Jenny for fear she may try to convert you to Jehovah's Witnesses. Religion has both obvious and subtle influences on you and on society. This book explores the impact of religion on you and your world. It draws open the curtain of mystery and offers ways to understand and make informed decisions about religion. Have you ever wondered what makes religion so powerful? What makes people profess deep faith even as they act in ways that betray that faith? What makes people blind to the irrationalities of their own religion, yet see clearly the problems of other religions? How does it weave its way into our political system? If these and similar questions interest you, this book will help you understand its power in you, your family, and your culture.
The God Virus by Darrell W. Ray is available at atheistaudiobooks.com.
We are given one life, full of billions of small and large decisions. To be somebody, to change, to be kind, to give hope, to become a better person, and to leave a lasting impact on this planet. It is a decision to be made every single day while your heart is still beating. We've made our decision. Absence of Clothing, atheist and science-based apparel and merchandise, donating 50% of our profits to charity. Look good and feel good, without God. Check us out at absenceofclothing.com and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, and Tumblr.
Visit secularmediagroup.com to see how we're changing the world.
Welcome back to Dogma Debate. So, every now and then, a Fortune 500 company decides to get a little bold, and they go out on the edge and do something that could potentially be seen as controversial. Well, Wells Fargo has done that. They released a television commercial in which they showed a lesbian couple adopting a child who is deaf. And they show them learning sign language to be able to communicate with the young girl. And it's a beautiful message.
Mm-hmm.
And in response to this, Franklin Graham posted the following on his Facebook page. Now, Franklin Graham is, of course, president and CEO of Billy Graham Ministries. And I didn't pull this from a news source. I went directly to Franklin Graham's Facebook page, and I pulled this myself. Here's the entirety of his post. He says, "Have you ever asked yourself, how can we fight the tide of moral decay that is being crammed down our throats by big business, the media, and the gay and lesbian community? Every day it is something else. Tiffany's started advertising wedding rings for gay couples. Wells Fargo Bank is using a same-sex couple in their advertising. And there are more. But it has dawned on me that we don't have to do business with them. At the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association, we are moving our accounts from Wells Fargo to another bank. And guess what? We don't have to shop at Tiffany & Company. Oh, and we don't have to shop at Tiffany & Company. There are plenty of other jewelry stores. There is one way we as Christians can speak out. We have the power of choice." Oh, sorry. This is one way we as Christians can speak out. We have the power of choice. Let's just stop doing business with those who promote sin and stand against Almighty God's laws and His standards. Maybe if enough of us do this, it will get their attention. Share if you agree. More than 44,000 people shared that message, and over 95,000 liked it. Before we get into the details of how this wrapped up, and before I read my favorite comment from his post, I wanted to open it up here for the folks in the studio to just talk about that piece of it. Don't spoil it for them, Alex, because I see your smile. You know what I know.
Yeah.
Let's not spoil it, but let's just talk about this concept first of boycotting businesses that disagree with you. I'll start. I boycott Chick-fil-A.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do not boycott Chick-fil-A because their president is anti-gay. That's not why I do it.
Or was.
I boycott because they actively use that money that they make from profit to donate to anti-gay charities.
Yeah.
I want to be very clear about that, okay? The CEO, president, whatever, can come out and say, I am against gay marriage. And if that's all he says, I don't mind buying his food. I don't. But when I see that they are actively using their profits to introduce legislation to take rights away from the LGBT community, I will not participate in that. So for me, that's where I draw the line. I can disagree with you and still buy your products. Mm-hmm. It's when you're actively petitioning our government to take rights from people. That's the difference. That's not what Wells Fargo was doing. They just used a lesbian couple in their ad, and he wants to take his money out of their bank. What's going on there?
I absolutely love the commercial. I saw it a couple of weeks ago when it came out. I was like, oh, that's interesting. It didn't make me want to go take all my money out of my bank and go give it to Wells Fargo, but it really began to tug at my strings, and I was like, that's really cool because that's a little bit of social progress, I think. And I read, a statement from Wells Fargo saying, hey, we want to reflect the diversity in our community. They're San Francisco-based, right? They've always been very LGBTQ positive and supported the community. So I'm like, hey, it makes sense. And I loved, like I said, I loved the commercial. And looking at it, I think people have the absolute right to boycott. If I don't eat Chick-fil-A, I miss their salads and their nuggets. Nuggets really good.
And the waffle fries.
Now I'm hungry.
What, Brandy?
You ruined it. The waffle fries. That's what I was going to say.
Oh.
Yeah. I do.
So let me ask you this. So if you were able to prove, or if you found out that Chick-fil-A was no longer filtering profits through there, would you go back to buy from Chick-fil-A knowing that they feel that way, yet they're just not using their finances? Because I bet you listeners disagree with me on that point.
Yeah, they probably do, and the reason why I am probably more against it is because of the level of verbal activism. I mean,
that's true.
Right?
Even though they're not giving money, they could persuade people.
Exactly.
You're right.
And that's actually kind of what Frankie is kind of talking about as well. Is like, we can pressure people into doing what we want them to, and the Christian dollar it carries a lot of weight. We're talking about 70% of the country, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot of money.
Yeah, you're right.
So do we know that? Sorry.
No, go ahead. You just keep talking. Don't.
So do we know that the Chick-fil-A is still doing that now? I didn't know that they were still doing that.
I thought
that was a private, personal thing going on. I don't know if they still do it. I'm curious.
It's one of those things that they called. It's different.
Right.
It's a separate organization, but it's very clear that the money they're generating from Chick-fil-A is what was going to fund that other fund. I mean, it's
right. And so I refuse to buy from Chick-fil-A, and for that reason. But if they change their mind, or if they stopped funding, I feel the same way about me changing my mind about religion. I mean, we do make different choices. We do change our minds. I didn't shop at JCPenney's forever, and then they had the Ellen DeGeneres thing, and I thought, man, they're sticking up for her even through all this. I actually will shop there now. I actually am part of a subsidiary of Wells Fargo and was planning on changing banks, and I didn't know anything about this, and I can be honest with you right now, I'm like, maybe I won't. Even if I'm not happy with the service completely, just the fact that they were willing to stick by it afterward, I think that's a great thing, and I think it's something that maybe I won't even change banks now.
I agree with you to some level, but I also think that if they're putting several $1,000s worth of money towards anti-gay charities, and then they come back and say, oh no, we changed our mind, I'm kind of skeptical of that. It makes me wonder, like, are you...
Well, no,
they'd
have to stop.
Well, maybe they just got better at laundering the money to a different company. You just don't know.
Yeah, how are you going to verify that, though?
But as long as they're not... Well... You can't control that, right? You can't control that, but you can control what they say.
Yeah.
And if they're now saying, they would change their opinion and say, listen, we're going to love everybody the same. We're not going to be do that kind. I'm willing to say, okay, I bought Oreo cookies. I bought Whoppers because of their promotions that I didn't buy before.
I guess.
Just like I would
look. In the United States, with the predominant religion being Christianity. And then, like you said, the almighty Christian dollar is very, very powerful. Probably one of the most powerful, right under the amount of money spent on porn. Yep. Christianity is like number 2, right? Yep. So you got the porn industry and Christianity pretty much running the countries from finances.
Porn dollars win.
Well, hold on. A lot of them anyway.
Yeah, it's the same people. That's a crossover. It's definitely the same people. But I think the point is... there are so many businesses that hang up, the place where I go to jiu-jitsu. There's a Bible verse on the wall, I mean, you go to any Whataburger. That's hugely famous in the South. Oh, yeah. It's One Nation Under God is on all of the windows.
In-N-Out Burger on the bottom of every container.
Yeah.
Right. There are so many of these Christian, quotes everywhere. There's really no way to keep track of it all.
But see, and my problem is with the CEO activism, right?
Right.
Okay. It's kind of like Hobby Lobby never gets a pass, right? Because of the Green family.
Absolutely.
They'll never get a pass.
Right. Yeah. So, one of the comments, and my favorite comment was by Lane. And this comment actually popped in about 3 minutes before the show started. I was scrolling through all the comments for a long time, and this one had just popped in. Here is Lane's comment to Franklin Graham directly. Lane's my new favorite person.
Love it when this happens.
I don't know one gay person that is trying to cram anything down a straight throat.
Is there such thing as a straight throat? We should start there.
Poor misguided little things trying to run from reality, trying to hide behind your bigotry. Here's the thing. Fewer and fewer people believe you, support you, or follow you. you will be out of the news long before LGBTQ rights are.
Nice.
Yeah.
You and all your kind. And when the money in your mega thieving...
This is like doing one of your audiobooks.
And when the money in your mega thieving church dries up, you'll likely work in a cubicle next to a homosexual because we are everywhere. You will never pray us away.
A lot of truth there.
I love you, Lane. That is awesome.
That's great.
Here's the thing.
Makes you want to frame that one and put it up on the wall.
Yeah, it does. It does. Before we get out of this segment, there is a little bit of a twist to the story. Can I have some twist music, please? Alrighty.
That's the right music, too.
Although Franklin Graham has removed millions of dollars from Wells Fargo, he has failed to take his own advice. He has now chosen the bank BB&T, moving all of his funds from Wells Fargo because of their support of the LGBT community over to BB&T. However, that Winston-Salem, North Carolina-based company, which he called a good bank, is now one of the biggest sponsors of Miami Beach's Gay Pride Parade. They're also a champion for same-sex couples all over South Florida. So, what are you going to do now, Mr. Graham? He goes on Facebook saying that we need to stay away from companies. Then he calls this company a good company and moves them over. As it turns out, the fee difference from Wells Fargo to BB&T is going to save him about $100,000 a year.
Wow.
So is this even really about LGBT rights?
Yeah.
Or does this have a little bit of money involved?
Well, one of the problems that he's going to have is you have corporations that are out there, banks included, that do support diverse, a very diverse population, and they're going to have a hard time hiding behind his bigotry, right? So wherever he puts his money, right, it's like, hey, we support the LGBT community as well. So he's got a problem.
And some stay out of it completely and don't have an opinion one way or the other because they're in the money for money. They're in the money for money.
Which I kind of agree with. The CEO activism is one of the problems, right? I don't need to know what you believe. Just do your business. And that's actually one of the things that I do agree with him on when he talked about, hey, banks should be focusing on banking. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Draw those lines. Keep the church in the church and out of the science classrooms and out of politics and etc.
Well, the problem with that, though, is if they're only focusing on banking, what is banking? Banking is community with people. You're holding money from the entire community. And so if every one of your commercials, since you're going to pander to the masses, why not just have old white men in all of your commercials? Because that's where most of your money's coming from.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're saying, our customer base is more diverse than that. So we are going to have African Americans, Hispanics, Asians. We're going to have women in our ads. We're going to have kids in our ads. And now that same-sex couples are popping up all over the place and are allowed to get married in more and more states every few months, now that it seems that there's about to be federal support from this concept, they're going, you know what? We have gay couples that are also our customers. So their ads are now representative of their actual consumer base. So yeah, I think they are focusing on banking. I do. I think they are focusing on banking. They're just being more realistic by showing and showcasing their community base. And he doesn't even like to know that there are other gay money in there. Just go away. Ooh, there's gay money in my bank.
It might touch my money.
What if their money touches my money and my money turns gay?
We all saw that coming together.
Coming up next, news for the fourth listener with John Carve. Stick around.
I'm Daniel Ratcliffe, and I believe that reaching out for help is the bravest thing a person can do. If you are struggling and need support, call the Trevor Lifeline at 1-866-488-7386. It's free and confidential, and trained counselors are there to listen 24/7 without judgment. To learn more about the Trevor Project's life-saving work for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or questioning young people, go to thetrevorproject.org.
You're listening to Dogma Debate with David Smalley, only on Secular Media Network.
I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, not only listening to Dogma Debate, I'm a guest. And that must make me at least the fourth listener.
Be sure to sign up at login.dogmadebate.com and take advantage of your fourth listener status.
Founded in 2006 for the purpose of realizing one man's vision, the Richard Dawkins Foundation works to remove the corrosive influence of religion in education and in the public square, while also working to eliminate the stigma that surrounds atheism, secularism, and non-belief. People should be free to express their non-belief without risking their jobs, businesses, relationships, and community standing, because continuing to allow attacks on science, climate change, medical advancements, and sex education has real-world consequences for billions of human beings beyond the discomfort of a few. Freedom for scientists, health and climate researchers, and ordinary human beings to work in understanding our universe and subscribing to an evidence-based world without the interference of religion is paramount if we are going to have a healthy future or else succumb to the darkness of ignorance and despair. The Richard Dawkins Foundation is committed to changing our culture, and you can help by joining, donating to, or volunteering for the Richard Dawkins Foundation at richarddawkins.net/donate, or you can sign up for their newsletter at richarddawkins.net/subscribe. Reason, Science, Progress. The Richard Dawkins Foundation at richarddawkins.net.
To get your comment or question on the air, you can always live tweet during the show at David C. Smalley, or give us a call at 214-377-1166. The conversation continues on Facebook.com/Dogma Debate. Seek the truth and free your mind at dogmadebate.com.
Like most of you, I was indoctrinated with religion. Had a time when I was much too young to make decisions. Dragged by the hand without permission, lacked the cognitive ability to see the contradictions and the superstitions. I know my mother really thought that she was doing right, cause after all, this wasn't a war she was taught to fight. Buried under layers of prayers, emotional attachments, and every other program and attached with a sense of common unity involvement. No actual incentive to question all of the sermons from the pulpit. This is how they introduced the idea, firmly rooted in the fear. No question validity, just adhere. It's not innocent, it sets a bad precedent. Internalized credulity for things that lack evidence. Some people keep this way of thinking for their whole lives. The need for critical thinking is never realized. I don't want to hear about the books that you have read. Explain to me the way you see the thoughts inside your head. Not filtered through the garbage you regurgitate instead. The thoughts are just a program with which you are in bed. All I really want to do is show you there is freedom. Eliminate those primitive myths, you don't need them. The clergy only trolling for power, so don't feed them. And since they can't prove it, remove it and don't believe them.
Don't feed him.
Don't believe him.
Listen to him. Welcome back to Dogma Debate. I just want to make this announcement before we get into news. I'm feeling rogue. I'm feeling a little maverick right now. Okay?
Does that make me goose?
What?
Does that make me goose?
That's the wrong movie.
Maverick and Goose?
Well, Maverick, yeah, but he said Rogue.
Well, you went rogue.
I don't get any of this. I don't understand what you're saying.
Dude, that was awesome. Top Gun, X-Men, it's okay, man. It's all right.
None of it.
I can see it in his eyes.
No clue.
Wow.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. If our GoFundMe account at GoFundMe.com/atheistaudiobooks, I'm going to go crazy here. If we hit the $5,000 mark by next Wednesday, I won't take any commercial breaks the entire next show.
Wow.
How are you going to do that?
Just not going to take any breaks.
Wow.
We're going to do segments. We're going to talk about it. Now, up next, let's talk about this. We'll get right into it. We'll do news. I'm not going to play any commercials if we make it to 5,000 by next week.
That'd be awesome.
We've got to get these projects out to the community. I'm dedicated. GoFundMe.com/atheistaudiobooks. Help make it happen, and next week we'll have no commercials. I'm all over that.
Like a plan.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Carf.
Johnny.
You ready to get started, sir?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
And now, it's news for the fourth listener with John Carf.
This is News for the Fourth Listener, brought to you by Secular News Network and sponsored by Atheist Audiobooks, who has changed the landscape of secular media to both educate and entertain the public. You can play a part in helping Atheist Audiobooks change the world by visiting their GoFundMe page and making a donation to help bring 4 new children's books on science into reality, both in print and audio, along with other great projects. There's some great rewards for donating, including one where you get to read the news live on Dogma Debate in my place. Go check it out and help at GoFundMe.com/atheistaudiobooks. Today, how much do you love America? Well, Ann Coulter has ideas about the right way to love America. Ann Coulter, who is on a media tour promoting her new anti-immigrant book, Adios America, the left's plan to turn America into a third world hellhole.
Ouch! She had to use adios?
Yes.
What a horrible person.
So I guess she's not worried about the Canadian ones. Oh, should have ended with A.
A.
Wow.
She called into Simon Conway's talk radio show in Iowa last Monday, where the two got to discussing citizenship requirements and naturalization ceremonies. Coulter told Conway that she was appalled that there is an exception to the English language requirement for naturalized citizens for certain older people who have been legal residents for decades, who, she implied, don't love this country. She also took exception to accommodations for citizenship applications with disabilities. Listen to this.
They do give citizenship ceremonies in Spanish. They've been doing that. Yeah, yes. Carter-appointed judge started doing it.
I had no idea
Yes,
that
they do.
happened because, of course, in order to become a citizen, you have to pass an English test. Even
Well,
I
that-
had to pass an English test.
The INF has waived the English language requirements for many immigrants. And it's not just, and that's obviously goes to the heart of it.
Mhm.
Are you switching allegiance? Do you love this country? But beyond that, how about the wheelchair-only section? How about the section for the blind? Look, wish these people well, but we're not running an international charity here.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane for any country not to be using its immigration policies to bring in people better than us, not people who need taxpayer assistance. We have our own poor people. And again, this includes all the immigrants who have come in, well, forever, who are here now. If people who
What the hell is she talking about?
And not bringing in people we have to help.
Okay, first of all, I thought we were exceptional and that there isn't anybody better than us. But what she obviously equates immigrants with laborers. Okay, so here's the deal. If she had a problem with Spanish-speaking ceremonies, she should have complained to Janet Reno. And it was a Carter-appointed immigration judge in 1993 who, at the behest of the INS, set up special rules for asylum seekers who have been in long-term asylum in the United States. If you are over 50 and have been here for over 20 years, or over 55 and have been here for over 15 years, then you can take the test and the ceremony in your native language. It is asylum seekers, not economic immigrants, for whom the INS waived the language requirement 22 years ago. So, finally, there are people in wheelchairs or who are blind who have much to add to the American tapestry, obviously. But here's
the thing that bothers me. Here's the thing that bothers me about it. She mentioned blind people and
Yep.
people in wheelchairs, and then she
Yep.
said we have our own poor people. Why are you just assuming that blind people and people in wheelchairs are poor?
Right. And
What are you talking about?
Obviously, she assumes that anybody who's blind or in a wheelchair is an immigrant is a laborer, and so consequently would be a drain on America, right? So, I don't know how you talk about the American exceptionalism without talking about people like, say, Albert Einstein, who was an immigrant, or Joseph Pulitzer, who was an immigrant. And Joseph Pulitzer, by the way, is somebody who I'm sure that Ms. Coulter, who is an author, is somebody with whom she will never be acquainted, just because she can forget about a Pulitzer Prize. It's the simple fact is this, and you're going to hear it in the next segment, because I apologize for making everybody listen to 53 seconds of Ann Coulter, and I know how hateful that is. But
it was.
And I understand that was the lightweight stuff. Since she was talking to a somewhat sane person, and I say somewhat, she didn't sound too crazy. But last Friday, she stopped by the Eric Metaxas show to promote her new book, and she went full Ann Coulter on him, okay? She blamed Mitt Romney's 2012 election defeat on immigration, lamenting that there aren't enough white voters in the United States and urging the former governor to make a third presidential bid to save America. If the country doesn't crack down on immigration, she warns that the United States is going to transform into Uganda. Listen to this.
Reagan got, I think it was 54% of the white vote. Romney got 59% of the white vote. The country in 1980 was about 90% white. Now it's about 62% white, though still only 72 who can vote. If something drastic isn't done right away, it is going to be George McGovern's America. It's going to be La Raza's America. It is going to be Uganda, basically. And get used to having segregated buses and subways as they have in India and Mexico because of the way women are treated and sexually abused there. Get used to your little girls being raped and being pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on. See, look.
Okay.
We named this show Republicans Losing Their Minds for a reason.
Yep.
Continue.
Okay, here we go.
Sexually abused there. Get used to your little girls being raped and being pregnant. Get used to not being able to go to your national parks because they're being burnt down. Pot farms are being grown there. Pesticides.
It's this were hyperbole, and you were
It
just
isn't.
being a cartoon version of Ann Coulter. But
Now, see, I love that. He said, I wish this were hyperbole and you're just being a cartoon version of Ann Coulter, which is in itself redundant. But continue.
Well, unfortunately, everything you're saying is right on. We've said a lot. This has never happened before on the show. I spend an hour, and at the end of the hour, we've got action points.
Yes, we have
Draft
action points.
Romney. Actually, no.
And
Action
read
point
the
number
book.
1, buy Adios America, and that book will convince you if you read it carefully.
But I wouldn't have written this book if I didn't think there was some hope.
Right.
But if this book doesn't work and change our immigration policy, that's it. Time to build the bunker and hire the cheap maids.
If the American...
Yes, she just said that.
God.
If the book doesn't work and fix immigration policy and keep whites in the majority, it's time to build the bunker and hire the cheap maids.
Wow.
That's not racist at all.
Oh, my gosh.
So, not
You can't
speaking
make this up.
So speaking Spanish is a crime now, I guess, huh?
Well-
It matters if you speak Spanish and that's your language. I mean, aren't we a melting pot to begin with? And when did whites have to vote white?
What does voting white mean?
I don't know.
Right, me either. But she actually understands what that means. Okay, and she's that is she's speaking. For the most part, they speak in code. All the time. They use words like urban to mean black.
Yeah.
And here she's just saying, no, we need more white people. She's just not. She's not even trying to hide it.
I'll tell you what. If there's one thing the United States needs, it's more white people. That's what one thing we've noticed recently.
Everywhere, and I can barely see one.
And Daniel and David also pointed out that poor means handicapped.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. If you have any sort of disability at all, you're automatically poor.
Yep. There you go.
Boy, we learned so much from Republicans on this show.
Yep. Well, okay. So I did 2 Ann Coulters, and so as way of apology and to make it not quite so heavy, I'm going to drop a little Lindsey Graham on you. So,
oh God! Come on.
Yes.
Well, yeah, okay.
I like
so
this one. Yes.
GOP presidential candidates are all herding in a cattle call in Iowa in preparation for the upcoming February 1st caucuses. And they're also herding to the conservative talk shows by Jan Mickelson, Steve Deese, and Simon Conway, who's the guy who we just heard on that first story. And these guys hold sway over conservative voters in Iowa. Last Friday, Jan Mickelson spoke to 2 announced candidates, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, who told him during the show that President Obama is, quote, redistributing poverty. Remember how when he was a socialist...
How do you redistribute poverty?
I have no idea, but that is what.
Sorry, Warren Buffett, you're about to be poor.
Right.
Now, wait. Now I know what the listeners feel like when I just do a Republican say the darndest thing, say when they hear this stuff for the first time. Because I haven't heard this yet. John has his own segment now, and I'm loving this. I'm cracking up.
Okay, and so Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina was also on the show, and when he tried, Graham tried to draw a parallel between the American Civil War and the conflict in Iraq, Mickelson jumped in to defend the Confederacy. Now, to Lindsey Graham's credit, he seems to realize that Mickelson is crazy, listen.
If the Americans are going to be the highway patrol to provide security for Iraq,
the glue.
As soon as we're going to be gone, it's all going to fall apart again.
Well, here's what happened in our own country. Within 100 years, we had a civil war among ourselves. We had a war with Canada and Mexico.
Oh no, I don't consider the North amongst ourselves.
Okay. Yeah.
And you mentioned
I can't go down that road.
And
I'm all for the Union.
And you mentioned capturing territory. I'm considering Sumter. Sumter was South Carolinian territory, okay. And you were invaded.
Okay.
Pretty much like the Russians are invading the Ukraine.
I am for the Union.
You got to give Lindsey Graham credit right there. You know that laugh is the I'm in a room with a crazy person and I hope he doesn't shoot me laugh. You know, so that's right. I can't. I'm sorry, I can't go down that road. So you got to at least give him. Of course, Lindsey Graham does not have a chance of a snowball in the proverbial hell. Okay, and I wish he'd just come out of the closet. He did. Lindsey Graham mentioned earlier today or yesterday that if he wins, he's going to have sort of rotating first ladies because he's not married. So
that's right. I love that one.
Oh my God, that was
rotating
real?
Yes, he really said that.
I mean, he was joking.
No, you know what? Mitt had the women in the binders, right? So he's gonna have his
Yeah, so
he was joking. Tell me he was joking.
Book of binders. He's gonna borrow the book of binders.
Well, he was not joking. I don't know what he means exactly by rotating first women. As a matter of fact,
do we have audio of that by any chance? Is there any audio of him saying that, or was it?
I didn't pull it.
But it exists.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
He said it.
And yes, he said it. And of course, the imagery of rotating first women. To me, I tried to imagine what that would look like. Michelle Obama on a tabletop. I have no idea, but what a rotating first woman looks like. But it's because they asked him, what he's going to do about the fact that there won't be, if he gets elected, there won't be any first lady. He's like, well, I have my sister, and my Aunt Louise. So he's he has a plan.
This isn't real, right?
And which state is he in?
Yeah, tell me which state he's from again.
South Carolina.
I just wanted to hear you say
shocking.
He's from South Carolina, which is why Mickelson was saying, well, Sumter, you guys were attacked. And he's like, oh, no, I'm for the Union. So he had to make that absolutely. So I give him credit for the simple fact that alone will lose him the Iowa caucuses to someone else in his party who will certainly pander to any sort of white wing craziness that comes along. So this week, Ann Coulter thinks that immigrants who are blind or in wheelchairs should go home, and she also thinks that maybe it's time to hire the cheap maids unless they're blind or in wheelchairs. And South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham took the somehow controversial stand to be for the Union in Iowa. You may facepalm now. This has been News for the Fourth Listener, brought to you by Secular News Network and sponsored by Atheist Audiobooks, changing the landscape of secular media. You can help to change the world through the GoFundMe page, where there's a donation reward where you can do the news live and let everyone know that they can facepalm now. Help bring 4 new children's books on science into reality, both in print and audio, along with other great projects by donating at GoFundMe.com/Atheist Audiobooks. For Secular News Network, I'm John Karff.
Coming up next, John's going to stick around with us for just one more segment and reveal yet another presidential candidate that we get to focus on. More Dogma Debate coming up.
You ever heard this chew tobacco, spit?
Chew tobacco, spit. Good old boy stuff. One of you should wear a cowboy hat during it. Chew tobacco, spit. Chew tobacco, spit.
Back a chewda. And then they spit.
Some country songs, the guy sounds a little bit country and it's okay. Welcome back to the Dogma Debate. And I'm here, your host, David. Sound real country. And I'm a good old boy drinking whiskey. It's part of my culture. I'm a redneck. I have the Copenhagen in my mouth. I chew tobacco, spit. I have a shotgun. I live in the country. I drive a truck. You know what? I better go drink some whiskey. All I'm your buckaroo. I put my pistol on me, and I went and got in my pickup. It's manly to drink hard liquor, drive immediately afterwards. Green traffic light, turn straight to red. Chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew tobacco, spit. Chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew tobacco, spit.
Back at Chuda. And then they spit.
I went to the sink and I got some Resolve. Laid it on my cushions and I wiped it off. Country music, country music, country music. Hey, that's a country song. I like it. God, that sounds pretty redneck already. He needs a little lubricant. Ain't a damn one know how to do the Dougie. Good old boy. Woohoo, McDonald's, let's do it. Prayer to the man upstairs. Okay, prayer to the man upstairs. You clean your plate. Because Rodney Atkins said so. Yeah, eat all your food. You can be a big old cowboy. I heard y'all had sushi, so you can't be in love. Chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew tobacco, spit. Chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew tobacco, spit. Chew tobacco, chew tobacco, chew tobacco, spit. Chew tobacco 3 times.
And then they spit.
David Smalley is pretty much the exact opposite of Glenn Beck.
There is no invisible Chinese stealth plane. We made that up.
You're listening to Dogma Debate on iHeartRadio.
Here's an excerpt from Nailed by David Fitzgerald.
Didn't there have to have been a Jesus? Perhaps he was just a wandering teacher or an exorcist, an apocalyptic prophet or a zealot who opposed the Romans. Perhaps he was all these things, or even a composite of several such early first-century figures. But at any rate, surely there had to be somebody at the original core of Christianity, arguably the most famous individual in human history. All this seems to be a perfectly reasonable, completely natural assumption to make, so why would anyone be so foolish as to propose that Jesus never existed? Doesn't it just make more sense to assume that there was a historical Jesus, even if we're unable to recover the real facts about his life and death? As it turns out, no. The opposite is true. The closer we look at the evidence for Jesus, the less solid evidence we find, and the more we find suspicious silences and curious resemblances to the pagan and Jewish religious ideas and philosophies that preceded Christianity. And once you begin to parse out the origins of this tradition or that teaching from their various sources, the sweater begins unraveling quickly until it becomes very difficult to buy that there ever was, or even could have been, any historical figure at the center.
Nailed by David Fitzgerald is now available at atheistaudiobooks.com.
Hey, Fourth Listener, get your behind-the-scenes access, peek into the studio, and even get special contact info, all by signing up at login.dogmadebate.com.
Hi, I'm Shelley Siegel, and I'm the 4th listener of Dogma Debate.
Say that I need to be saved. Say with me, the devil got his way. I want to know how when you are praying, when you are doomsdaying, how you think you
So coming up next, we're going to be talking about this McKinney pool party incident. And not only do we have some audio of the incident, we have audio of the press conference afterwards. But we also may have some interesting comments to read to you from Alex. Was it your blog?
Yeah.
You blogged about it, and people came and decided to weigh in on the conversation.
Everyone can find me at the graffiti wall on Pathos.
The graffiti wall on Pathos. Okay. Okay. Well, we're going to read some of those comments from his blog as well. So I'm looking forward to that. We still have Republicans say the darndest things as if you haven't heard enough. And then we're going to fact check your mom or your uncle or your
stepdad twice removed.
Stepdad twice removed. There we go. John is now going to join us again to discuss yet another Republican presidential candidate. And I understand, John, you're going in order of how they're actually announcing their candidacy.
That's exactly right.
All right. So I don't want to ruin it for anybody by telling them at the beginning of the show, but that's the formula. Just so you know, that's how we're figuring it out. Who's our special feature this week, John?
Well, this is the Rand Paul edition.
Yay!
So, in the run-up to the election, we're covering the candidates who are running for the office of most powerful human being on the planet in the order in which they declared their candidacy. So, week before last, we started with Ted Cruz because he was first. And the next person to declare was Senator Rand Paul, named after that wacky atheist and author of The Virtue of Selfishness, Ayn Rand. Rand Paul has staked out the libertarian soup Nazi territory of the Republican field. So this week's segment is called No Healthcare for You. So here are 5, and the format is we're picking out 5 things that these folks believe, and here we start with the first thing Senator Paul believes, and he believes in the elimination of the Social Security safety net, which he called a Ponzi scheme. Here's a quote. I think the average American is smart enough to make their own investments, as he told Kentucky Public TV in October of 1998. The more freedom, the better. Reform is going to happen, and I hope it's privatization. Until then, he favors raising the retirement age, and additionally, he said over half the people on disability are, quote, either anxious or their back hurts.
What?
You're on disability, he says over half the people on disability are either anxious or their back hurts. Apparently, he thinks everybody is either has having panic attacks or has a bad back. Who's on disability?
Does that include the vets that come back?
Of course.
Wow.
Of course, yes.
I wonder what the real stats are.
That's how you love America right there.
Well, that is how you love America. Okay, number 2, he opposes same-sex marriage. This is a libertarian, remember. According to the Senate Vote Match quiz, he opposes same-sex marriage because redefining marriage, quote, leads to economic and moral problems. Okay, so he was talking to Glenn Beck, and he said this.
Economic problems. How could it possibly lead to economic problems? Is his explanation for specifically the economic part in his response?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Here it is. If we have no laws on this, people take it one extension further. Does it have to be humans? I'm kind of with you. I see the thousands of year tradition of the nucleus of the family unit. I also see that economically, if you just look without any kind of moral periscope and you say, what is it that is the leading cause of poverty in our country? It's having kids without marriage. The stability of the marriage unit is enormous, and we should not just say, oh, we're punting on it. Marriage can be anything. So he said states should decide. He didn't, however, say whether states could decide for polygamy or bestiality if they wanted to. How can amendment is to ban same-sex marriage, and he supports banning homosexuals in the military. Yeah, so he says the deal is, of course, it's nuts because there's a larger and larger percentage of single household.
Look. Let's talk about this for a second.
Okay, all right.
Kids, specifically teenagers, are masters of the straw man argument.
Agreed.
I will go into the kitchen and I will say to my son, you didn't clean the kitchen properly. There's still crap stuck to the cabinet. I need you to fix this part. And instead of saying, sorry about that, let me do this part, I forgot, or I'm on it, he'll say, oh, so I guess I just don't do anything around here. I'm a horrible person.
There you go.
Yeah. And then I have to go on the defense. No, son, you are a wonderful person. You are typically very good at this. And he completely throws me on the opposite side.
Yep.
And until I just start agreeing with him and go, yes, you are a horrible, horrible human being. And you will not be worthy of oxygen until you clean this. You can't do that. So
He's like, I feel so much better about myself now.
Hey, man, I'm going to write a parenting book. That's how I roll. So this concept of the ultimate straw man is kind of what throws people off their heels because it completely distracts from them having to actually be reasonable in any respect. And so that's what this is. It's such low-hanging fruit, and it's a teenager straw man argument to say, well, I think we should legalize gay marriage. Oh, so marriage can be anything.
Right.
I would like to marry my car.
Now,
and leave all my belongings to my car when I die. Yeah. This is the type of argument. So then you have to go, no, it's not anything, man. Trust me, man, it's still going to be about two people being in love, man. You have to back off and somehow, put baby powder on it. And I did it this way, by the way.
Yeah, I
you
noticed.
saw it.
You were cupping.
Yeah.
You got the hippie voice going and you're cupping, yeah. It's nice.
Thousands of year tradition of the nucleus of the family unit includes a man and maybe 4 or 5 wives, or maybe his wife and the maids and some concubines.
The cheap maids.
That
right?
is also the cheap and build a bunker. to house them in.
Well,
The
they're
first
cheap
porn
maids.
novel.
They're always cheap maids until they become wives. Then it's not cheap anymore.
Oh,
wow. Did you notice in the quote?
David at dogmadebate.com.
If you look without any kind of moral periscope, any idea what a moral periscope is? I think he meant a moral compass, but he is a libertarian, so nobody's going to tell him which way is north again. So he went to moral periscope, whatever that.
God.
Oh, open the door.
I love you, John. That's awesome.
It's getting hot in here.
All right, on to the next thing. He scored 100% opposed to the separation of church and state by the American United for the Separation of Church and State. On his answers to the AU's questionnaire, he indicated that he strongly supported keeping God in the public sphere, meaning he believes that Judeo-Christian values are American values. Belief in God is what America was founded on, so tax funding religious organizations or praying in schools does not violate the separation of church and state. Displaying the Ten Commandments is appropriate because they are the moral basis for Western law. The Pledge of Allegiance should continue to include the phrase under God. Here's a quote. The U.S. Constitution does not mandate separation of church and state. That phrase comes from a letter written by Thomas Jefferson while president in 1802. The Constitution's Establishment Clause says that the U.S. will have no state church known as established religion, which has been interpreted to mean the federal government cannot fund one church over another, end quote. He has no problem with schools teaching intelligent design.
Okay, look, for any time I hear, look, I've always heard Judeo-Christian values, Judeo-Christian principles. Even as an atheist, the term never bothered me because I can equally argue against both versions of that deity. It doesn't bother me one bit. It wasn't until I did the voiceover for Non-Believer Nation by David Niosi on atheistaudiobooks.com. It's out there. When I did that, it changed the way I hear the term Judeo-Christian. There is no such thing as Judeo-Christian.
I agree.
So many people go, oh, that's what that is. David Niosi does a brilliant job of breaking down why that term should never be used, and when it is used, what we can do to combat that and the things we can say. Also, Our Constitution by Madeline Murray O'Hare. Our Constitution, the Way It Was. That's also available on atheistaudiobooks.com. I did the voiceover for both of those books. Understanding and reading that type of material for how our government started, how secular it actually was, how most of them were deists, most of our founding fathers were deists, not Christians, and how Christians now try to combine themselves with the Jewish people to say Judeo-Christian is absurd. It's them trying to just gather more numbers. It's like Mormons baptizing dead people to say we have more and more people out there. That's not the way this works. And anytime you hear that, you need to be able to pounce on it and stop them right in their tracks and say, wait a minute, where did you get this term Judeo-Christian? And Non-Believer Nation by David Niosi will really give you some pointers on how to do that.
You're so going to be baptized when you're dead.
Oh, I'm sure I will. I'm sure I will.
I hope he is.
As a matter of fact,
I'm going to put your name on the list now just because I don't want my prediction to fail.
No, look, I have an ex-Mormon friend who is still like on the books of the church, who's already told me that if I die tomorrow, he's going to do it just to mess with me. It's going to be like a big prank thing.
Can we go? Can we attend? That'd be awesome.
Can we just not talk about my death? You know what? I already have a root canal tomorrow, and I feel like I'm going to die anyway.
Yeah,
so let's not push me closer to the grave,
we
guys.
can go back to cupping.
So sorry.
Yeah, let's go back to cupping. Anyway, go ahead, John.
One very special thing about a root canal, they have to actually make sure that that nerve in that tooth is alive. And the way they do that is they take this very sharp thing and they stick it up into your tooth until you jump out of the chair. And then they go, okay, it's good.
Oh, wait, something's going on with John's mic. I'm not really sure what happened there. I think John has left us for the evening.
Just saying. Okay.
Thanks.
Number 4, no one has a right to clean air and water. He voted no on protecting ocean, coastal, and Great Lakes ecosystems, and here's why. Quote, since its creation in 1970, the EPA has done more harm than good. EPA regulations cost more than 5% of our annual gross domestic product, which was over $15 trillion in 2012. This is equivalent to the costs of defense and homeland security combined. Most Americans are unaware of this. Too often, our rights are violated by abusive and power-hungry EPA bureaucrats who use threats, coercion, and force to implement power grabs. I wish these instances of abuse were random and the exception, but they have unfortunately come to characterize what many Americans now rightly see as a rogue government agency. EPA regulations have hampered landowners' ability to manage their private property as they please and have seriously impaired job creation. As with the massive cost of the EPA, many Americans are unaware of the routine suffering caused by the overreach of such regulatory agencies. There's his libertarianism coming right out in just full force right there.
Wow. Any more crazy quotes from him, or can we be done with him?
When we have that was number 4, and here's number 5.
This is the last one?
This is it.
All right, let's do it.
He strongly opposes any kind of employment remediation for women or minorities. He believes...
That's my vote right there.
He believes affirmative action is better described as reverse discrimination.
Oh my!
Quotas based on race and gender are wrong, whichever race or gender they favor. Underrepresented groups should fend for themselves without government intervention. He voted no on reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, and in 2 broadcast interviews, he said that the federal government may have overstepped its role by making it illegal to impose racial segregation in the private sector. Asked if he thought a private business had the right to say it would not serve black people, he said, I don't want to be associated with those people, but I also don't want to limit their speech in any way in the sense that we tolerate boorish and uncivilized behavior because that's one of the things freedom requires.
So
Which,
vote?
Of course, it's wrong. Freedom requires that we tolerate boorish and uncivilized speech, not boorish and uncivilized behavior. So, in other words, what he's saying is, I wouldn't associate directly in public with people who wouldn't serve black people. But it's got to be their right because that's what we do in a democracy. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, those people. Oh, so
his daddy believes the same way.
I know. It's like voting for a racist Mr. Burns.
What he's saying, and I've heard this argument a million times, especially from libertarians. They say, look, if someone wants to put a sign out front that says no blacks allowed, let the market decide that that's horrible. And the major point they're missing is that our government should be here to protect and to protect minority populations and to not allow the majority to decide who discriminated against.
That's what the entire Bill of Rights is for.
That's the point, is that just because you're the most doesn't mean you get to be the bully. So, yes, we are a democratic republic, meaning we get to decide laws based off of majority vote sometimes, or the majority vote of the representative that's going to be making the decision. Overall, our government should still be in place to not allow the majority to decide who to discriminate against. That's supposed to be their job. So, no, there are certain lines. Look, if people want to make it, I would like it to always be 50 degrees inside my restaurant. There shouldn't be a law against that. If you want to be that stupid, go ahead, because people are going to walk in and go, this sucks, and they're going to leave, and that's going to be on you. If you want to decide to let dogs run loose in your restaurant, well, look, that could be up to you, but now we're talking about some possible health concerns, right? Now we're talking about you've made a decision that could potentially be harmful physically to people with allergies or other sorts of issues. So there's going to be this line that moves back and forth of how much freedom do you have versus where do we let the market decide versus where do the government get involved, and refusing to serve populations of people based on race, gender, sexual orientation. That is on the opposite end of the spectrum. That is wrong. That is prejudice. That is racism. That is ridiculous. Now, as far as you being able to make other stupid decisions, I'm fine with allowing people to make dumb decisions. Everyone's got a little bit of a different landscape for what they would tolerate. But this is absurd. Saying that you can hang a sign in front that says just no black people allowed or no Asian people allowed, how can you possibly be okay with that?
Same thing with no gay people. I mean,
that's right. Now, they also say, of course, gay people could have restaurants that don't allow straight people. The problem
I have to
is
get my straight person card out.
There's no such thing as pure market, because that restaurant is on a street that was paid for with tax money, and the water that comes to their house is piped. Into their
absolutely.
Business.
But you got to be careful about going to that gay restaurant. They might try to shove stuff down your straight throat.
That's right. If there is such a thing as a straight throat.
Thank you, John.
There you go.
By the way, John,
Yes, sir.
You talked about the GoFundMe thing where you read the news.
Yes.
I don't know if listeners probably haven't been around long enough to remember this, but that's actually how I got on Dogma Debate the first time. Was I donated money to one of the causes. I was the largest donation, and I got to read the news for the first time, and that's how I met the cast and everything.
That's right. Had you been better, I wouldn't be here.
Well, no. Actually, he got so good, he's now a co-host. And John, you're just the news guy.
Oh,
so let's get that straight.
Just the news guy. Well, that's it this week on.
I had your back, Donovan.
Some of this is my opinion, and I'm just a news guy.
Oh, John, you're more than a news guy to all of us.
John's our chief strategy officer. He's a badass behind the scenes.
He does a lot of stuff.
He does.
You people have no idea.
He's got to teach me how to love America.
One straight esophagus at a time.
And you know what? You know what? You know what I love about John is anytime some conservative kind of makes sense, I go, that kind of sounds like a decent idea. John comes on and reminds me of why I cannot vote for these maniacs. Thank you so much, John. We do appreciate it. Coming up next, the McKinney Police Pool Party. We have audio that you may want to hear and some comments that I'm going to try to get Alex to read. This is going to be fun. More Dogma Debate up next.
I'm Greta Christina, and I am the fourth listener.
To get your comment or question on the air, you can always live tweet during the show at David C. Smalley or give us a call at 214-377-1166. The conversation continues on Facebook.com/Dogma Debate. Seek the truth and free your mind at DogmaDebate.com. For more information on this program and many others, visit SecularMediaGroup.com.
Atheist swag for heathens and sheathens. Get 15% off your entire order using the promo code Dogma Debate only at evolvefish.com.
You're listening to Dogma Debate on Secular Media Network.
Here's an excerpt from Atheist Universe by David Mills.
There was never any doubt voiced or even contemplated that day didn't mean day in the book of Genesis. Even Henry Morris and other creation science champions reaffirmed completely their belief that Genesis was literally true. Not so for the ID followers. They reject Genesis as being literally true, but can't seem to bring themselves to say that Genesis is literally false. They are torn schizophrenically between their emotional dependence on the local religion and their embarrassment at having to accept the serpent in the garden along with their Savior on the cross. The ID cultists want to be counted among the religious faithful, but long to be perceived as science-minded as well. ID evangelists are embarrassed by the content of their own Bible. Despite innumerable biblical references to the devil, ID's preachers never use the term publicly because they are ashamed of it.
Atheist Universe by David Mills is available at atheistaudiobooks.com.
While cutting molding with a 12-inch dual compound miter saw, while holding a newborn baby in your arms, when face to face with a congregation of alligators, with the ball in your hands and the entire freaking season on the line.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting, so why would you do it while driving? NASCAR driver Casey Kane here, asking you to please stop the text, and together we can stop the wrecks.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Get the message at stoptextstoprex.org.
If you've been missing Dogma Debate, man, it sucks to be you.
In the name of God, you killer. In the name of your God, in the name of God, you conquered. In the name of your God.
Welcome back to Dogma Debate. Okay. This segment, we pride ourselves on having a sort of a TV-14 show, possibly PG-13 to some degree. We don't typically curse on the show, and so anytime I'm going to play audio that's been unedited, I will always warn you in case you don't want your kids to hear it. What you're going to hear is just some teenagers dropping some cuss words here and there, and I think one teenager says the N-word. It's just like their casual speak. I mean, it's not anything that we would say on the show, but I'm just warning you now that what's going on in this McKinney police video, you're going to hear teenagers talking the way teenagers talk, so there are a few cuss words that are going to be dropped here. So if you don't want your kids to hear that kind of stuff, now would be the time to pause it, turn it off, or turn it down. So essentially what happens here is we're going to play the video, and you're not going to be able to hear a lot about what's going on, just a lot of chaos. But we're going to sort of give you commentary on what's happening in the video. And essentially what happened was there's a community swimming pool for people who live in the area. And some people showed up to the party or showed up to swim who were not allowed to be at the pool. And this used to happen to us all the time. I grew up in a really small trailer park in a small town in Texas. And there were some apartments across the street. And a lot of the kids from across the street, they didn't have a pool. And they would come over and swim in our pool and just completely take over. As a matter of fact, there was a whole the projects across the street were all black, and the trailer park was about 80% black, 20% white. And they would come over and swim. And there was one time where they were like, "Let's get all of the white people out of the pool." And I remember a pretty big guy one time picking me up and literally throwing. I was probably 13. He threw me out of the pool, and I skinned my elbow and everything else because I was white. He threw me out because I was white. And so I understand when you have a community swimming pool and people show up that aren't supposed to be there and sort of take over and cause a fight. I understand that being an issue. And so apparently that's what happened. I don't know if it was black, white, or whatever, but people were there that didn't have a pool pass or for whatever reason weren't supposed to be there. And originally it was just trespassing call. Some people are here that aren't supposed to be here. No big deal. While the officers were on the way, they got an update to the call that said, now there's been an assault. So things were immediately escalated on their way. Then the officer shows up and the filming begins from, I guess, a kid's iPhone. And by the way, I just want to say thank you to this kid for actually turning his phone sideways.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
I am increasingly frustrated by teenagers who hold their phone the wrong damn way. So this kid has a future in media.
How dare you judge? Because I'm one of those people that holds it the wrong way on it.
Yeah, I know, and it's horrible because I can never see, and then I spend the first 30 seconds of the video turning my phone left to right to see which way I can get the biggest view.
But you can fix that. There's an app for that.
Yeah, but it doesn't do a great job. And by the way, at graduation for my daughter, I saw everybody's phones up, and there was like 2 people with it sideways, and the rest of the audience had it up and down. And I thought to myself, how are you even going to see him walk across? You're going to have to be... It's crazy. And then when you go watching on your TV, you're going to have black lines. It's going to be awful.
Yeah, try to...
Stop thinking that
go
way,
watch
people,
a video
please.
on YouTube. Go watch a video on YouTube and think about what's going to happen. So, I mean, there should be like, when you get ready to record video, your iPhone should be like, are you sure you want to do it this way?
Yeah. Oh, that'd
Because
be
this
nice.
is kind of dumb.
That's an app.
I think the iPhone just needs an update. Anyway, so thank you to this kid for doing this. So here come the crazy words. Donovan, you've never seen this, have you?
I know nothing about any of these stories. It's
Okay.
kind of exciting.
Okay, so here's what happens. The cops show up. It was just trespassing. Now it's been escalated to assault. Here's the audio with some foul language. Be prepared. Here we go.
Oh, my God.
Okay, first of all, that was a cool little ninja roll. The cop
just rolls in there
Yes.
and does a ninja roll and then just gets up and starts...
That barrel roll has gotten people... I mean, people are cracking up everywhere about it.
Dude,
Well, he fell.
It was
He
a
tripped.
trip.
Yeah, he
It was
tripped.
a trip. It was a trip.
It looked
was a trip.
really professional, though. I mean, I'm not a ninja, but I'm just saying,
was-
it looked
have you ever
looked on
seen
purpose.
Have you ever seen the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine with
No,
Jake
I
Peralta?
have
It's
not.
hilarious. It's complete comedy. And I thought, the first time I saw this, I thought it might be satirical just because I saw that barrel roll. I expected him to like, freeze!
So I've posited this frame 1 second in. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 teenagers. And there's one officer probably 25 feet away, way off in the distance, running at full speed directly toward the teenagers. I mean, now this looks like a bomb threat situation. And look how far away his car is. See his car way in the background?
Yeah.
Now, this is how they should have responded to the Tamir Rice situation.
Can we not go there?
I'm just saying. No. That he should have parked far away.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
And walked.
Yes.
So I'm looking at this going, okay, step one, you park far away because you're not going to drive through a bunch of teenagers and then cause yourself to be up on a situation and now there's a fight, a guy's got a bat, you kill somebody. I'm thankful that he parked far away and then came. But I would expect him to be walking or maybe a light jog. This guy,
full on.
It looks like there is a terroristic threat going on and he's about to dive into the road to save a little baby or something.
That tree uprooted him.
And then he trips and does this barrel roll. And so I understand that it's funny. There's going to be more stuff to this that makes the situation a little more serious. But here it is again. Okay, so 2 cops have just ran by.
Yes, a flashlight. I got a flashlight, my nigga.
So,
shit, bro. This nigga fell. You see him? Hey, let me go give it to him. Let me go give it to him.
Okay.
No. Hey, let me give it to him. I want to give it to him.
So now these cops now are just standing on the corner talking to some teenagers. There's several teenagers standing there, and they're trying to figure out what's going on.
Hey, it was his. No, it wasn't his. It wasn't his. It was his.
I'm just saying, don't take off running when the cops get here. What's up, man? Oh, thank you.
Okay, so that's a cop saying, don't take off running when the cops get here. So what happens is these cops come up, and a few of the teenagers just bolt.
Yeah.
And so naturally, what the cops are going to do is chase the people who are running.
Yep.
So, but is there a crime? Is it a crime to run away from cops? No.
We know that. We know that from our last conversation with Police Officer Woods, right?
Right. But I don't know what the cops are supposed to do there. Like if I showed up and I was an officer and I show up on the scene and all I know is somebody started a fight. I pull up, there's 40 people standing around and one guy takes off running. What would you do?
I might chase. I might give chase, and I would say that there's almost nothing wrong with giving chase and maybe wanting to stop someone and having a conversation.
Right. Okay. And so far I'm with you.
Okay.
All right. Let's see what happens.
It was some guy.
So this cop right here is being relatively calm.
He's being a cop.
He's being a cop.
He's not one of the guys that came running.
No. He's just standing there talking to people. But these other guys are about to come out of nowhere.
One of these
okay, guys, I appreciate it.
None of them were involved.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. They're
it was
good to
this
go.
guy's. It was that guy's.
Whoa, sir,
Get on the ground. Hold up, sir.
I told you to stay. Get your asses down on the ground.
Okay, that cop. Okay. Wow. We just look up and see another cop grabbing a young black teenager, pushing him into the ground, saying, I told you to get on the ground, get your asses down. He gets the one kid down and then walks through a crowd of other people telling everybody to get down.
Right.
He grabs there was a Hispanic kid right there. He grabbed his head and pushed him down.
Right.
And then he's just trying to get everybody to lay down.
Yeah, so he didn't just grab the kid's hand. He actually used the baton and leveraged the kid's
Oh,
down.
okay. I didn't see that.
If you take a look at it. So the first kid he grabs, black kid, grabs his hand with the baton, leverage point, forces him to the ground. Okay?
Okay. All right. Then he runs over and tells 2 other kids, there are 2 other black kids in the street. He screams at them to get down. So they start to get down. He runs over and yells at them, get the F on the grass.
Right.
So makes them get back up and run over to the grass to sit down. Okay, now he's screaming, get your ass out of here. Now, that I have a problem with that, first of all. I don't know who he's talking to. There's a bunch of white people and black people he's screaming at.
Now,
these people don't have to leave the area. I don't understand. I mean, I understand him wanting to protect his own safety and trying to secure the scene. Mm-hmm. I get that sometimes they need to be aggressive when they show up. But I think guys like this tend to go overboard by telling everybody to get on the ground, telling you to get out of here, you shut your mouth. They tend to go overboard with their level of power.
It is asserting dominance. That's what it is. It is a tactic. It is asserting dominance.
And that's what I think you should do if the situation's out of control. This situation didn't look out of control.
Right.
We haven't seen anything wrong yet.
I've seen people just standing there.
It makes sense if you're in Waco and there are, a bunch of biker gangs, maybe. But, oh, wait, they were white. Sorry. Let's get back to the video.
What? That was clean.
He's handcuffing one kid.
Cuff on two.
Then he cuffed the second kid.
Two black kids, by the way.
We'll figure it out now in a minute.
He's just kind of standing there looking at everybody.
He looks antsy, though.
He is. He's itching. He is itching.
His name is Eric, by the way. We're going to be talking about him in a moment.
Officer Casebolt.
Yeah, Casebolt.
I don't care. Sit down. Sit down.
Okay, he's telling everybody to sit down. I don't care. Sit down. Okay, at this point...
Richard, what color was it?
It's navy blue.
I know where it is.
That's evading.
Okay, so he said he told him to sit down, and they got up and took off running, and that's evading. And once an officer tells you to sit down, and you get up and bolt, now you've broken the law.
So right now you're staying. Don't make me fucking run around here with 30 pounds of goddamn gear on the sun because you want to screw around out here.
Okay. Now you dropping F-bombs and cussing out kids, not your job, dude.
Who are sitting there quietly.
But but this is one of the things. He doesn't really see them as children. I mean, we know that police don't see black children as children.
Yeah.
Y'all keep standing there and run your mouths. You're going to go too.
Okay, you standing there running your mouths, you're going to go to jail. For what?
Running their mouths.
What is illegal about standing 20 feet from the scene talking on a sidewalk? This is just he's going from being taking control of a situation to being a bully.
Yes.
But get out of here! I already told you. You don't have the right to tell people to go home.
Now all this time, there's a white guy following him around. I don't know if you noticed that, but he's been like kind of tracking behind him a little bit.
He's an adult. He's an older white guy.
Yeah.
You're leaving now. You are leaving now. Leave. That way.
Don't touch
Then get your ass going.
Nobody.
Keep running your mouth.
Keep running. He sounds like he's talking to his kids.
Right. Now, it's interesting because some of these kids, some of them were from the neighborhood. Some of them were from outside of the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
They were dropped off. They had no way to get home.
And how do you know who's who?
Right, and he pointed down the street and told her to start walking.
That way.
Yeah.
Like he knew where they had to go.
Just go away. All right, let's
go ahead.
Yeah.
Yo, Jelfer, what the fuck is going on? Why is he acting so crazy?
All right, so he just slammed. Is that a girl or a guy?
It's a girl. It's a girl. Now I think what we've got on her, she's about 15 years old or so, and she was just talking back, and she was slammed down, and then he proceeds to mount her. I'll let you finish.
Okay, at this point, he was basically fighting her almost, and a bunch of people crowded around him. He was about to get there was some violence about to happen.
She had she's got a bathing suit on. She's almost all skin, and she's slamming
She's
on
a
that
tiny 15-year-old girl in a bikini.
Cobblestones like sidewalk.
I don't believe that if you take a look at a lot of what the kids are doing, they're trying to protect her. They're about to either pull him away to stop him from doing something really stupid, or they're going to try and protect her, which I'll say that's what I would have done.
Yeah, I understand. Right? I understand their outrage.
He grabbed her head, right, and he's pushing her head. I mean, it's one. You don't touch a black woman's hair, right? that's number one. That's the first thing, right? But
It's this thing of she didn't come at him physically.
No.
She was talking.
Yes.
And he didn't like her disobedience with her mouth, so he grabbed her and tried to throw her to the ground. He's being a bully. Flat out, he's being a bully.
Uh-huh.
And these people are now gathering around to protect her. Okay.
Whoa.
Now,
Yeah.
Now he pulled his gun out, and people are running. Now that's a white guy.
Yeah.
Right.
He. Yeah.
There was a white guy about to help her too, and
there was a lot of people right around her protecting her. Kind
yeah, there were two white guys were part of it, part of helping
young
her.
Kid and older guy.
Older guy, yeah. Now he pulled the gun out as he's looking at the white guy. The white guy's running. They're all running.
Yeah.
I'm going to back this up just a little bit because I'm just kind of going frame by frame here. Here we go. I'm going to start it over. Okay, he's slamming her down. She fights back. If I saw an officer doing that to my daughter,
I'd still be at the station. Are you kidding me? I
Oh
would
my
still
gosh.
be at the station.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh wait, that guy's not white.
No.
He's really light skinned. He looked white whenever he was.
We're
turning.
light, bright, damn near white.
Okay, now the other cops show up
to stop him from doing something really stupid.
Yeah.
And note that he didn't pull for pepper spray. He didn't pull for a taser.
No.
He pulled his
pistol.
gun.
Yeah.
He pulled his gun.
Absolutely.
A bunch of kids in swimsuits.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, now he's pushing her back into the grass again, slamming her face into the ground, telling her to get on her face, and she's saying, "Call my mama."
Yeah.
While the other two cops have now left.
So why not stop right there
and call her
let
mom?
her sit there,
Yeah.
and call her mother?
Because
why physically push her face into the grass?
All right, we've had the conversation on dehumanizing, right? So he does not see her as human.
I don't know that.
I do.
I think he's overzealous. I think he's stressed out. I don't know that he doesn't see her as human.
Okay, so let's keep playing this for maybe another 10 seconds, and I want you to let's
Okay.
go 10 more
Okay.
seconds,
All
and
right.
then we'll have this conversation.
All right.
So now 200-pound man
Now
is
he's got both knees on her back.
right. So
Right
a
in the middle of her
200-pound man
spine.
is exactly. And I've had conversations with police officers, military, ex-military, and we all keep coming back to the same thing. That goes way beyond excessive, right? So 200 pounds of pressure on her spine. She's maybe what, $110, $120?
If he was over 100
maybe.
pounds, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I'd be surprised over 100.
Now, here's the question: can you see? Serious question: can you see him doing this to Talissa?
No. Talissa's 10.
Oh,
but
she's only-
I mean, look.
Okay, so
I think once an officer gets to that level of power trip, I don't know that it would matter if she was a white girl talking back. I think she could have been in a similar situation.
I got to go with...
I mean, I understand. I see that heightens it for sure. I get you, and I've covered this a lot, and I know that black people are often mistreated. I think this problem has more to do with that cop just
losing his mind.
Just losing his mind.
I got to
period.
go. It's case
Yeah.
by case.
Yeah,
it's got to be because some people get a little too
but
crazy.
in general,
and
but
then-
in general, do white people get more passes? Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Hands down.
Yeah. Okay, he doesn't even need to sit. I think he's out of handcuffs.
Yes,
I think he had 2 sets
He had
on
two
him.
sets, and he spent them both.
He spent them already on those first 2 kids, and now he doesn't have any way to keep her down. And so he's just putting. Oh my God, this is disturbing.
Finally, lift one knee up.
Okay, so white children who are part of this party, right, who have been videotaping this, are told to go home. the black children are told to sit down, get down. One is thrown on the ground.
Now, hold on. He did tell a group of about 7 or 8 black girls to go home as well, and that we already covered that. So he told them to just start walking in some direction. He told these white kids to get out of there, too.
All right, let's keep playing.
He pulled out his gun on her.
The cops showed up and caused more trouble.
Yeah.
Nothing was happening till he ran through there that we could see.
Get out of here or you're going too.
Is that her crying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like she's crying. He's just sitting on her. It's so unnecessary. Why not let her sit up?
He just pushed her head down again.
You know what kills me is you have all these adults just walking around, but they're not objecting.
They may be objecting verbally, but
it's a cop. What are you going to do, right?
What are you going to do? I mean, if I'm in this situation, I may walk over and lean down and talk to the officer. Is there anything I can do to help you? There's a lot of kids around. You know, hey, man, that's a lot of pressure on her. You know, I'll sit here with her and watch her. Let's talk. You know, let's not let her leave, whatever. But I've got a family to come home and take care of, too.
Mm-hmm.
And I typically have a firearm on me for a concealed handgun license. I get into some sort of physical altercation with an officer.
You going down, dude.
I'm done.
Yeah.
And not only that, I've assaulted an officer. I've got a firearm on me. I'm going to lose my license to carry. I'm going to be in jail for a month or so. I mean, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Would I risk that to save someone? If he was beating her in the head, I'm going to do it. He's sitting on her back. It's uncomfortable. It's inappropriate. It's overzealous. But am I going to tackle him? No, I'm not gonna tackle him. I'm gonna stand there like they are and probably try to talk some sense into him. But obviously, he's in a heightened state of emotion. Okay, I think for the most part that's it. Let me skip ahead here. Yep. Okay, they went and got the person. All right, now the officer's coming over to talk to the 2 teenagers he handcuffed already.
I personally told you to get on the ground and stay, didn't I? And what did you do when I walked away? So you just did what everybody else did. And what everybody else did was illegal. You did it, and you got caught. They didn't. Now you're sitting here paying for it.
We just came in from work.
I don't have a problem. That's not my problem. I asked y'all to sit. You became a part of the mob. You could have been the guys that were doing right, and you weren't. So now you're sitting here in trouble.
We can go get our friends.
You're going to sit here until we get this figured out.
Okay, that's
know,
about where the video ends. So.
It's really hard to listen to him give a moral a lecture to these kids on what's right.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, they became part of the mob. I don't know what the mob was, but...
Well, what he's saying is, you're not talking into your mic, Donovan. I don't know how many shows you have to do to figure that out.
It'll be at least another 100.
Okay, probably. So I just figured what we can... this is the way Donovan taught me to do radio, so this is how it's going to...
Yeah, I taught you. Let's not ever forget you said that.
Hey.
Damn, if that wasn't on the mic.
Hold and cup.
Yeah,
there you
hold
go.
it and cup here.
Cup right there. You go. There you go.
She doesn't need to be taught. She
Commercial.
So with all this, okay, sorry, way too much visual, way too many visual things. Look, if you want to see what's going on, log in to dogmadebate.com. There's video of it. I'm sorry.
This was so worth 3 hours of traffic.
But look, in this case, I understand the way he reacted is inappropriate. I also understand what he's telling the kids. I showed up. I knew there was a fight. I didn't know who was fighting who. I told everybody to have a seat so we could figure it out, and you bolted. I kind of get chasing, and then I kind of get going, no, look, it's not that you're being handcuffed for being black. You're not being handcuffed for being a teenager. You're being handcuffed because I asked you to sit down, and you took off running. So if he would have showed up and said, everybody have a seat, let's figure this out, and they all sat down, would anybody be in handcuffs? I don't know. I've been a part of situations like that where sometimes I was handcuffed and let go, and sometimes I wasn't. I was told to sit down. I was holding a stick. A black officer one time, I had a stick. I was walking by the freeway, and a black officer pulled out. He grabbed me by my shirt, threw me on the sidewalk, and took the stick from me and handcuffed me, took my license out of my own wallet, and ran me while I was laying face down on the pavement. I rolled myself over, set up, scooted over to the edge, and propped myself up against the curb. He didn't help me. And I'm like, why? He's like, you're running around the damn freeway with a weapon? I'm like, a weapon? I guess so. It's a long stick. It was in case I came across some kind of feral, crazy-ass dog. I don't know. I was just, for my own protection. I was late at night. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I get it. I get him being concerned about it. And then when I got ready to leave, I said, can I take my weapon?
Did you really?
Yeah.
Did I get you in trouble?
And no, he said, yeah. And I went and took my weapon, and I started jogging again, my same damn direction. I didn't have any warrants. I didn't have anything against my record, you know. If I was black and he was white, would that have gone the same way? Probably not. I don't know.
Probably
I don't know. I was being a smartass. I get it. But my point is, I kind of understand what the officer's saying, but at the same time, him trying to lay down some moral framework on these kids is a little interesting because of how he showed up overzealous. But there may be an explanation as to why he was acting that way. I think part of this, of course, is, I'm always going to say it, there is always sprinkles of institutionalized racism, especially in law enforcement and positions of authority. There's also this innate sort of backlash against teenagers in general. White, black, or indifferent. It's gonna be this. Oh God, you're here to cause trouble. Let me show up and be scary so that I have less people to arrest. If he shows up and says, "Hey guys, can we talk for a second?" They're gonna run all over him. So there's a fine line between being assertive, being authoritative, showing up with power, and then showing up like Bruce Lee. You know what I mean? So I understand that that's going to be hard to gauge, especially when you're an officer and you've got to deal with the stuff at the top of your head. We can go watch video. We can judge after the fact. He's clearly in the wrong. He's clearly overzealous. He's clearly acting out of fear, which is what Michael Wood texted me and said right when this came out. He's like, I nailed it. It's this fear stuff. Yeah. The guys who were confident, the guys who knew they could handle it if any of the teenagers flipped out, those are the guys that were calm, saying, I know, man, just don't start running when the cops show up, okay? Calm down. Well, here's my flashlight. I don't care. Just hold on a second. We'll get it figured out. Those are the guys that are calm. The ones that are terrified are the ones going, get your ass down. I swear I told you to put your ass on. He is freaking out. He's scared. He's barking for the same reason terrified dogs bark. They're not coming to kill you. They want you to think they're scary so you stay away because they don't want their true colors to be shown. I get it. Now I have audio from the McKinney Police press conference in which his legal representative made a statement, public apology, and announced his resignation from the police department. This kind of shines some light on policies, policing policies, for what's actually going on behind the scenes in police departments.
Good afternoon. Eric Casebolt tendered his resignation as a police officer with the City of McKinney effective yesterday. He did so with a heavy heart, knowing that his resignation was not only in his best interest, but also that of his fellow police officers and the City of McKinney, Texas. It is his hope that his resignation will facilitate the cooperative relationship between the citizens and the police officers of the City of McKinney.
Okay, right off the bat, this is pre-damage control. Yeah. This is please don't riot, please don't kill me. You know,
that's what I heard too.
I'm resigning. I'm done. This is not representative of McKinney Police. Don't burn the city. Like this is, I think this is preemptive. Please stop. And in that sense, in a very strange way, the riots in Ferguson, the riots in Baltimore, have made them pay more attention.
I disagree. because yes and no.
So you think this would have happened with or without those riots? I don't think he would have been so quick to resign and do this press conference immediately, because what they always do, Alex, is they just wait and see what they go on administrative leave, they go on vacation, they get paid, months go by, and then they go, yeah, this guy was...
Okay, so I agree that the riots have had some level of impact. I don't think anyone can really deny that, and that's going to be something that people are going to be afraid about. But it's affecting the wrong behavior, right? It's not, hey, don't riot because we screwed up. It should be, well, don't screw up. Right. That's what we should be really addressing. We should be.
Yeah, but these people are still humans. They're going to screw up. They're going to screw up. I mean, you just can't ask for perfection out of human beings.
I know. But we can ask for better cops.
Well, no.
And we got 11 of the 12. 11 of the 12, I will say 11 of the 12 did what they were supposed to do.
Nobody ended up shot. There was restraint. Nobody got killed.
Yeah, so
this is a better situation, and I think it's a better situation because now when that officer pulled his gun out, now keep in mind, in his mind, he was trying to restrain a person who was evading and fighting back, in his mind. And what happens when you're fighting some person to get them, and you know your enemy number one and the 13 people around you don't want you there? He feels threatened. He's afraid, right? So he's trying to handcuff this person. In his mind, it's just a person. And then he gets people crowded around him. He backs up and pulls his gun.
So
okay, I get
him. Why just him? You know, and this is where I don't understand why 11 other officers who are on the scene didn't see the threat that he did.
Right. So let's continue playing this clip.
The video that everyone has seen only depicts a small part of Eric's actions that day at the Craig Ranch neighborhood in McKinney, Texas. Eric was assigned the evening shift that day and began working at 6 p.m. His first call was a suicide at an apartment complex where an African-American male had shot himself in the head at a poolside in the apartment complex. The male had done so in the presence of his family, his children, other parents, and children. Eric assisted the officers, the McKinney officers who responded. He assisted them in securing the scene, photographing the body, and collecting statements. Eric also spent a considerable amount of time consoling the man's grieving widow. Immediately thereafter, he responded to a second suicide call. This one was involving a teenage girl who was threatening to commit suicide by jumping off of her parents' roof. Eric assisted by calming the girl enough so that she could be transported safely to the hospital. Eric's compassion during these two incidences are a testament to his character and all of the officers who work for the McKinney Police Department.
Okay. Why is it that an officer would respond to a suicide where he had to take pictures of a dead body and console a grieving widow and then be released to continue working that day?
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. I remember very clearly whenever I was a dispatcher and I wasn't on the scene of anything, I took a phone call where a mother literally pulled up in her driveway and drove over her kid's head. And I got the call of Spanish-speaking family, just chaos. And I took about a 15-minute break, came back, and thought, I'm good. And my next call was a sister who was calling because her sister killed herself. You don't have a choice. You just have to continue, no matter what emotions are running through your body.
Look, my mom runs a box factory. She has forklift drivers that load trucks. A guy one time, a forklift driver, spent about 3 hours loading a truck in a perfect order, because you have to load it in order of backwards delivery so that the stuff at the back of the truck is first. And so he goes through this entire process, and he was fairly new. He'd only been there 6 months, 8 months. He spends about 3 hours meticulously loading this truck perfectly, backs out, goes to hang up the thing, and realizes he loaded the wrong truck. He was distraught, okay, because he was trying to do his job really well. And this is nothing life-threatening. This is you just spent 3 hours of your life doing something that now has to be completely undone. It's going to take you the rest of your work day to finish, and you're pissed off, you're in a bad mood. My mom came out there and said, just go home for the day, buddy. You're not in trouble. You're not fired. I've been there. I've driven forklifts before. I understand. Just go home. Come back tomorrow. You'll be fine. I'll have somebody else fix this. And he was grateful because she knew as a manager he was not in the right mental state to continue working the rest of that day. Anything that would have happened would have been escalated. Oh, the thing's out of gas. Damn it. He's going to be kicking. He's going to be cussing. Somebody walks up to him and says, hey, there's a problem with this order, or the pallet breaks and he has to rewrap a pallet. He's going to flip out. He's not going to be in the right mental state to handle a stressful situation. So she sent him home, and we're just talking about loading a damn truck. So in situations like that you experienced, when something that drastic happens, I feel like the policy should be you go home.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You have to gain tough skin. Otherwise, you can't do the job. There's plenty of people waiting for that job. So I think Alex had a great point. They're better cops. I think that the cop acted ridiculous, probably because of what happened prior. But if he doesn't have the skin for it, and he can't act right on the next scene, well, then there's other better cops that can.
That's a good point, but I think just understanding human psychology, I think that's asking a lot from a person.
It is.
It is
to do that, so. And I don't know that. I mean, I what I'm saying is, look, there's a reason why pilots have a maximum number of hours they can fly before they are forced to take 3 days off to sleep. Okay, there's a reason why truck drivers are now having implementations of mandatory break hours, and you cannot drive for more than 16 or 17 hours at a time before you stop. The human brain can only handle so much. And I think, obviously, he's accountable for his actions. He's already apologized. He's already quit. Yep. I get it. But do you not think that if there was some sort of policy in place that, I mean, how often are you going to work a suicide? That's not going to be every day. So in the event that something like that happens, why not send him home for the rest of the day because he just took pictures of a dead body?
You know,
I don't know that it's not going to be every day. There were times where I took multiple, just like that. You know, 2 dead people. That's not uncommon. We just don't hear about it on the news a lot. So it's like trying to teach a person to have compassion at the same time of teaching them It's like trying to teach them to not have compassion, but have compassion at the same time.
Separate
It's
it.
hard.
Yeah, be empathetic,
it's very,
but don't
very
cry.
hard.
Right, it's one of those.
Exactly.
But, you know, and you know, I talked about the 11 other cops that did what they were supposed to do. But reality is, any one of them. Now, we saw that when it got a little crazier, right, when he pulled the gun, we saw 2 officers kind of step in and like, hey, dude, you don't want to do this. But they could have stepped in earlier, right? So we like to talk about good cops, and those 11 cops are great cops, and they did everything right. You had one officer who did something really, really wrong. But why didn't they step in? Do they not have the training to see a cop off of the deep end? I mean, hell, they didn't. I'm going to assume 11 cops didn't go shoot suicides. So why didn't they have the wherewithal to say, hey, Eric, take a chill. Dude, walk away.
Okay, I have one problem with that, and that's that after both of them stepped in to talk to the guy with the lighter skin, or however you want to describe him, they both left. They didn't think he was so bad that one of them needed to stay back.
No, he pointed to the light-skinned guy, and said, go get him. Why? Because now he's interfering with an investigation by trying to stop him from pushing this little girl's head into the grass. So they did what he told them to do, and they chased after the guy who was about to fight him.
Both of them.
Right.
Could one have chased him? I don't know.
Right. And, okay, so that's, we said 12, right?
Yeah.
And where the other 9? Now, we
I
didn't
only
see
saw
them.
3 cops there.
That's what I saw, but the chief said that there were 12.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna continue playing this. I just wanted to make that point that I understand what you're saying, Brandy. It makes perfect sense.
Sorry, you had to go through that.
I just don't know that many people exist who can compartmentalize like that. And even if they can to some degree, it doesn't mean they're in the right mental state to take on another situation. The human psyche is only so strong regardless of your training.
I agree. And I tell you, one of the hardest things I ever did was that day in my 2 years of being a dispatcher, because I was trying to tell the mother to give CPR. And I didn't know the situation. I didn't know she ran over the child's head. But here I am trying to give her CPR instructions, and she's telling me no. But our job is to continue to try to give CPR instructions. So you have to have compassion. And I understand your thought on trying to release him. But at what point do you release him? Do you release him whenever he first threw the girl to the ground? Or do you release him when he pulls out his gun? I mean, a cop telling another cop to go sit in his car and wait? Or, I mean, at what point after the call's over and he's already made the mistakes, at what point do you tell him to go home? And are there resources to cover his place? Because a lot of times in the dispatch world, you work extended hours and you only have the exact amount of people to cover for that shift.
Yeah.
So who is going to cover for you? And you can't tell people that are dialing 911 to hold on or send it to voicemail. You have to have somebody sitting in that chair. You have to. It's not a choice.
I'm wondering if there is some sort of better mandates for overstaffing for every day, which comes back to funding.
Yep.
And then after everything like having to do with, you could probably list 5 things minimum. If you walk up on, if you are involved in some sort of murder or homicide or suicide and you witness a death or have to photograph a dead body or go through something like that, there should be immediately when you leave that scene, you do not check back in that you're ready for duty. You instead go back to the department where you debrief with a counselor for 1 hour, and then that counselor makes the determination whether you can continue on for the day or not. I'm talking about some sort of debriefing session where you get to clear your head and that counselor can pick up on signs to go, I just think you need to go home for the day and then come back tomorrow.
I agree. I think that would be a great idea. And if they found a way to have enough staff to do that, I think it would be great, especially for, I mean, the people that are doing those jobs, because it is tough. It's very tough.
So we need better supervised police again.
Better supervised police, better policies, and
it's a tough gig one way or the
other.
other.
I'm gonna keep playing. There's a little bit left of her press conference.
And the nature of these 2 suicide calls.
I'm going to back it up a little bit.
All of the officers who work for the McKinney Police Department. And the nature of these 2 suicide calls took an emotional toll on Eric Casebolt. They serve as a reminder that while police work is often dangerous, it is fraught with emotions and family tragedy. When the Craig Ranch neighborhood incident came over the radio, Eric Casebolt was reluctant to respond to a simple trespassing call, given what he had just been through. He was content to let the other officers handle this call. However, once the call was escalated and responded to possible violent assaults, he felt and believed it was his duty to respond. Eric's actions at the Craig Ranch neighborhood were only an attempt to investigate the reports of violent assaults. His purpose was to interview as many persons as possible to determine who was involved. He believed that those who fled were possible suspects. He was not targeting minorities. In fact, he also detained a white female who you do not see on the video. His efforts to gather information was hampered by some teenagers who were instructing others to defy police instructions. With all that had happened that day, he allowed his emotions to get the better of him. Eric regrets that his conduct portrayed him in his department in a negative light. He apologizes to all who were offended. That day was not representative of the 10-year service to the community of McKinney, and it is his hope that by his resignation, the community may start to heal. I thank you so much for your time.
What do you think, Alex?
I didn't want the resignation, honestly. I didn't. I wanted, because he takes a lot of the steam or the sting out of the discussion that we're having, right? And I think if this is the end of it, it's a bad ending. If there is a conversation that, like the ones that we're having, is how do we stop this from happening, right? If that conversation actually happens, then yeah, maybe we learn something from it. I think his resignation may hamper that, because we should, that resignation is wonderful. That explanation, great. But there's so much meat there that the administration should be talking about, right? We should be talking about mental management. We should be talking about accountability. Yes, he's accountable now, but, and this is one of the questions, like, what, let's say that this was an older crowd, right? Just a couple of years older, right? And they were legally armed, right? This is, you have deaths. There's no way you don't have deaths then, right? I mean, Texas is open carry, right?
Did that actually pass?
Yeah,
I saw that it was about to.
It did carry. Yeah, it did. And so you have pistols and everything, right? So open carry, conceal.
I disagree with that. Completely disagree.
Well, yeah, but it passed, and so that's the world we live in. So do you honestly believe, and we know that police do treat minorities a little bit different when it comes to guns, right? And it's like, oh, look, open carry for, why? It's like, oh, he's got a gun when it comes to a black person. Mm-hmm. And had arms been any factor in this, yeah, I think you see some dead kids or dead adolescents or adults, etc.
Wow.
So a lot of conversation that needs to happen and needs to continue to happen. I mean, some of the debate that has raged online is great debate. Some of it has been nonsensical. There are people that have defended his actions, and to them, I just say, if he's saying he was wrong, the chief is saying he was wrong. You know what? They were wrong. Just suck it up.
I think this is how you handle it as a police department, though. I agree the internal conversations need to happen, but if Baltimore would have done this,
well, here's the thing. The resignation is one thing. Firing has a different message, right? Firing has a different message. Now, of course, you have to go through the investigations for actual firing, and it probably would have been protracted. I'm glad, yeah, he's not on the force, okay, and, his reputation tarnished, but firing sends a really strong message, because it does tell people, does tell officers who are human, you can't cross that line.
Right. I'm interested to know your thoughts on this. Live tweet at David C. Smalley. When we come back, do you want to read some of your blog comments, or are we past that?
Oh, I'll do it.
You'll do it?
I'll do it.
Okay, so we're
got to lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to read some of the blog comments coming up next, and Republicans say the darndest things. More Dogma Debate coming up. Stick around.
Get sexy with Dr. Darrell Ray and Secular Sexuality, only on Secular Media Network.
Hello, I'm Alan Cumming. Live Out Loud is calling on the LGBT community to help improve life for gay teens. Take what you know and gay it forward through the Homecoming Project, a chance to return to your old high school and share your story with LGBTQ youth. Your life experiences and wisdom can prove invaluable to teens who may be struggling with their own identities and paths in life. One day can make a lasting difference. Gay it forward with the Homecoming Project. Find us at liveoutloud.info to learn how you can get involved today.
The staff of Secular Coalition for America lobbies U.S. Congress on issues of separation of church and state, and they've become a powerhouse for change in the United States government. You'll definitely want to subscribe to receive their email action alerts. These are updates for important issues and ones that you can get involved with directly. And hopefully, you'll consider making a contribution to the Secular Coalition for America to help them continue fighting for your equality. You can do it all at secular.org. And if you get the chance, let them know that Dogma Debate sent you.
I'm a Dogma Debate volunteer because I have two small boys. And I need them to live in a world where it is safe for them to be open about who they are, atheist or religious. My name is Alicia Cook, and I am the fourth listener.
Be sure to sign up at login.dogmadebate.com and take advantage of your fourth listener status.
Here's an excerpt from Baptized Atheists by David Smalley.
I stood in the warm holy water at the First Baptist Church of Everman in a small town in Texas. And Pastor Mike said to me, "Do you believe Jesus Christ died for your sins so that you may enter the kingdom of heaven?" I nervously responded, "Yes." He continued, "Then you are hereby saved in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." As the water covered my eyes and face, and my breathing paused, I briefly questioned my answer. I think I believe in God, but how can one man's death result in the salvation of billions? And how does killing the innocent pardon the guilty? Upon breaking the surface of the water, I continued to ponder the agreement I had just made. I was walking up the steps out of the baptistry, draped in a pure white gown, soaked from head to toe, as water was dripping with each step. The crowd was cheering, but I had never been more confused in my entire life. What had I just accomplished? I thought to myself, why should that tragedy of Jesus' death have to take place if God were in control? Why would a righteous God demand the blood, torture, and death of anyone, let alone his only begotten Son? Most importantly, I thought, why haven't I thought about this before now? I suppose I had just gone along with everyone else because I thought it was part of life. And I'd always been taught that if you ever said you weren't Christian, then you were immediately bad. Getting baptized was just something boys did, like going to school and shaving for the first time. I never really thought about it with a free and open mind before. As others were being baptized and the ceremony was being completed, I realized the pastor must have seen doubt on my face. He leaned close to me and lightly said, "You know, son, you can't just say you believe. You have to know it to be true in your heart." That changed everything.
Baptized Atheists by David Smalley is now available at atheistaudiobooks.com.
You're listening to Dogma Debate on Secular Media Network.
Flops. Why this colaveri deep? Why this colaveri deep?
Welcome back to Dogma Debate. Sorry, forgot we're coming back. We're doing a radio show. All right, so you blogged about this, Alex. You actually talked about it.
Oh, yes.
And I'm sure you had no opinion either way.
None whatsoever.
Yeah.
None.
Were you aware, when you wrote your blog, were you aware of the suicide calls that Eric had taken earlier in the day?
No, that piece hadn't come
Does that
out
factor in for you?
Only a little bit, right? Because and I know it sounds terrible because you can't use that as an excuse. It's either you have to take yourself out of the game if that's going to affect you. And I know we just had.
They may not even know. Like there are quarterbacks who get smashed.
How many times has that happened?
And they want to go
life?
play. They want to go back out on the field. They want to go back out on the field. They can play. They can play.
I get
they
it.
don't realize that they're not ready. Maybe I'm not giving them excuses. I'm just offering it up as a potential. I could understand how that could be ridiculous.
And how many times has he had to go through 2 suicides and then get a call where you feel like you had no choice, but you could not say no?
And let's remember the first suicide was an African-American man at a pool party.
Yep.
And he's called back to
taking
a
pictures.
pool party.
And,
right, but now he's come back to a pool party where there are a large number of African-Americans and there is a fight, and I think he wasn't in the right mental state to even be there.
I don't know that we could even... I don't even know that we could make a full judgment call. There's no way to know everything.
Well, the good news is he's apologized. He realized he did wrong. I'm glad we could have the discussion and immediately have that much closure that fast. But what were your primary points in your blog?
Well, the primary points were, the title of the blog is why the resignation is bad for Texas, because it stops us from continuing to have this kind of conversation. Mm-hmm. And, it was very personal for me because I had people actually message me, I live, I'm a local, right? I'm in McKinney all the time. My daughter, who has been homeschooled, has a lot of friends in McKinney. In fact, we had a couple of people message me directly. It's like, hey, was that Ari that we saw in the video, like in the background, not the one that got slammed in, but was like in the white bikini. And I joke around, I was like, no, it's not because she's the only black girl. No, it's because she actually did look. I saw the video, I was like, oh wow, I can see how people would actually make that kind of mistake. Right. And so, and actually my daughter was one of the first people, like, when I showed it to her, she was like, oh my God, let me make sure that none of my friends were part of that. So she's scanning through and she's sending messages and what have you. It's like, you weren't part of this, were you? And so it touched very close to home. And I as a parent, looking at that girl, was like, that could have been my daughter. Mm-hmm. So I had that reaction, and I'm looking at all those, the white kids as well. It's like, why do they need to be exposed to this kind of nonsense as well? So the reaction online was really explosive. It was very polarized. A lot of people just see things just differently, regardless of, obviously the extenuating circumstances.
Right. You don't sound racist. You just sound white. I'll never forget that you said that to me. I asked, do I sound
Another
racist?
great
to you?
quote.
No, not at all. You just sound white.
Just sound white. All right. So, and it's interesting because I see a lot of people in the middle. I see a lot of people that say, wait until the facts come out. Mm-hmm. And then there are other people who have thrown additional facts on top of it. There have been rumors about drugs being there and alcohol. And it turns out it was probably, just a teenage party and what have you. And I'm sure more facts and non-facts will come out. And people will continue to quarterback, the police officer.
Well, and I have a question that I would like to enter into Eric's brain. Let's stop and think for a moment. Why do these young black teenagers feel the need to run from you?
Yeah.
Yeah, they ran.
Yeah.
And they're not supposed to. They were wrong for running. I get it. But why do they run?
Yeah,
why have you become an object that we should fear in our society?
Again, we see police differently, right? I mean, for me, police aren't always there to help me, right? And we talked about Baltimore, where you see a cop and it may be, they may be shaking you down. And I saw this in New York as well. They may be shaking you down, maybe a stop and frisk, and maybe you don't have anything. Maybe they're going to slam you around really hard and you don't really want to deal with that today. Mm-hmm. So, run.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so what were some of the comments you got on your blog?
What PG rating is these comments?
Okay, I'm gonna use two of them, right?
Okay,
and because they show how far apart we are on this one, right? One of them is, and sometimes I just don't allow some comments on my blog because it's like, oh, this is too much, because it's moderated. So you have no idea what actually happened. Those black people were just simply out of control. I was there. Make it simple. Just stay out of our neighborhoods.
Wow.
Right?
Whoa.
Right. Okay.
This is a white person saying,
yes,
black people stay out of our neighborhoods?
Yes.
Did he say black people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I just didn't know if he used anything derogatory.
Then where's the other one? There's another one that was a little
read the one you showed me from the black guy.
You're really good.
I like that one. I want you to read the comment from the black guy on there because that was
for some reason I can't seem to find it.
Oh, that's convenient. That's really convenient.
Okay, but okay, so damn. Okay. The reason it happened.
Wait, is this the black guy?
This is the black guy.
Why are you gonna mumble it?
What's wrong?
What are you ashamed of?
Hiding it. This is no reflection on you.
No, it's not.
Absolutely not.
Wait a minute. Are you blushing right now?
Can you get the camera a little closer?
I'm just going to say David is not my only white friend. I have lots. Okay?
And the views expressed on this program that are read by other black people do not necessarily reflect the views of Alex Jules. There you go. Now you got your disclaimer. Go ahead.
All right. The reason it happened is because some white cracker.
Can you start over, please?
Don't.
Hey, everybody, shut up. Don't laugh when he talks.
Okay.
I need this audio clean. Oh, you know what? I'll fix this right.
Oh, nice. He mutes everyone else. Wonderful.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. The reason The reason it happened is because some white cracker who's been racist and started a fight with some of the black teens only to see a white cop freak out over a girls who's not paying attention. The rest is really not that important in the big picture. In the big picture of police not being vetted for their biases.
Thank you.
I will regret that. I already know.
Kari, have a blast.
I'm just Wonder Brit now. That's what I figured out.
But you know, but reality is that's how far apart we have been on this issue. It's so polarizing. This one, honestly, this one was almost worse than when I've written about Baltimore, even after the fact. You know, where we talked with Officer Wood. I mean, this one is really and it close to home, very close to home.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you can find the blog it's called The Graffiti Wall.
It's called The Graffiti Wall. And
on Patheos.
I'm on Patheos, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, in case you haven't had enough Republicans losing their minds today, let's get into some Republicans say the darndest things.
No telling what, no telling when, never a dull moment. When you think you know, they surprise you again, saying what they wanna. They're gone tomorrow, right here today. Let's hear what they have to say.
Republicans.
Say the darndest things.
It's professionalism.
All those magical things that come from the heart.
Republicans.
Say the darndest things.
Republicans.
Always say what they wanna.
This week, we have three very special people for you, and I will go ahead and tell you that our after show this evening is going to be a situation in which, and I'm not going to reveal any names, I think the person that I'm going to be talking about listens to this show. I'm not going to reveal any names, but there was a certain MMA fighter that I happen to know who made some comments online about Caitlyn Jenner and received a huge backlash, and then I found myself 2 days ago alone in a locker room with him, and we got to have a discussion about it. And I want to talk about kind of how the discussion went, of course, protecting his identity. And that's what we're going to be talking about in the after show. I'm going to kind of reveal what happened behind the scenes and take you from there. So if you're not signed up, go to login.dogmadebate.com. You can watch live video inside the studio and hear that story live. And I think John Karff is actually going to join us for that conversation via Skype again.
Wow, I can't wait.
Check us out for that. Login.dogmadebate.com. Now, these Republicans, let's see what I want to do first. Let's see.
Did Brian Fisher make your list again?
No,
Oh,
no.
he
These are two of them are brand new. And I believe 2 out of the 3 are African American conservatives. You ever heard of Ken Blackwell?
Yeah.
Family Research Council?
Yeah, he's special.
Did you realize that he is now on the front line of civil rights and resistance?
No.
Well, he is.
I haven't seen him.
Well, here we go. He is a civil rights activist, and he's going to explain to you why we need to continue what Dr. King started.
What we've known from the great civil rights movement, what we've known from our pushback against the wrong-headed court decision in 1973 is that we take direct action of resistance.
So far, that sounds like a bold statement, a respectable statement from a civil rights leader. The problem is what he's talking about is resisting same-sex marriage.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him a civil rights leader.
When you say the word resistance, when you say civil disobedience, they think of the criminal activity that we see on our TVs at night and in responses in Baltimore or Ferguson or what have you. But the question is, how consistent is it with our Christian practice and belief, and how consistent is it with American tradition for citizens to resist bad decisions?
This is scary to me, because what he's doing is he's wanting to incite national resistance under the same sort of moniker of civil rights from the 60s, from the 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And incite this, we've got to rebel against the government. We've got to resist because gay marriage is becoming legal.
Right. He's serious, too.
Civil
He's
rights
very
against
serious.
civil rights. That's my favorite.
And the scary part about it is, with him being a black politician, when he says civil rights, he can speak the language. He can talk about it and talk about we and say us, and we fought this before. He's an older man, too.
Mm-hmm.
He's been there. And it's scary that he's putting these two things on the same level, and it's even more scary that people are paying attention and thinking that he's making sense.
He was very upset. He was very upset at President Obama correlating civil rights with, same-sex marriage as well. I remember a couple of...
How can you even not see it that way? It is fighting for equality, is fighting for a right.
He doesn't even like the word civil rights being used with same-sex marriage.
But that's exactly what it is. It's the rights of
That's not the point.
It's the rights of civilians.
That's not the point. It's we own civil rights. You can't have it. It's real simple. It's not just a black and white issue. It's just black.
Thank you for clearing that up.
It was
Thank
very
you.
nice and clean.
No, everything is fine except the Rainbow Coalition is made up of nothing but black colors. That's it.
Oh,
when
okay.
it comes to civil rights,
Like 50 Shades of Grey.
There you go.
50 Shades of Brown is what it... Gotcha.
Yeah,
Mm.
there you go.
Nice.
Well,
okay.
if it's a brown, okay.
In the... Oh. So much visual comedy for radio. You're brilliant, Alex. On that same panel, this is a Family Research Council panel on same-sex marriage. Have you heard the name Alveda King?
Mm-hmm. No relation. Yeah. Yes. Yes, I know.
Is she not? She's not
she is. Of course she is. Yes.
She's related to the King family?
Yes.
How so? Is she a daughter? Is she a sister-in-law? She's a daughter?
She's a daughter.
Of Martin Luther King?
Mm-hmm. Do I have to claim her?
Please do.
No. I don't want to.
Please do before I play this.
No, please don't play it. Just don't. We already have a bad PR problem.
The good news
that's
is...
why cops... Go ahead.
No, don't ever say that's why cops, because the moment Alex Jules starts giving reasons for cops, this show is going to enter the twilight zone.
Oh, boy. Was that a knock on the door? Just checking.
I'm going to get an escort.
Alveda King had this to say, because luckily, this shouldn't even be an issue anymore. This whole same-sex marriage thing shouldn't even be an issue, because as it turns out, it's not even possible for two gay people to be married. Here she is.
God's mercy overrides common law or man's law. So men will attempt, whether they have on, and women, whether they have on the robes and their justices and people look up to them, they're still human beings. So they're faulty and flawed. So we still can't worry about, we have to do something about, stand against, speak against. We actually might have to refuse to perform what they think will be marriage ceremonies. It's impossible to marry two men to each other or two women. It's just not possible.
We have to refuse.
The two cannot become one. It is biologically impossible, scientifically impossible, emotionally impossible, definitely spiritually impossible. You can actually hold a gun, heaven forbid, to a preacher's head and say, do this marriage. Now, he or she may say, okay, or they may say, I won't. But even if they speak the words, it's not possible. It is impossible. We have to be able to articulate that on all the levels we just said, spiritual, physical, science. The only way is by common law, legally. That's the only thing they could win. They can't even win on the other levels. They cannot. It's not possible.
Well, becoming one is kind of impossible for all living creatures.
Right.
That,
when you talk about
procreate that way.
Right.
So,
when you talk about
saying.
biologically impossible, it's also biologically impossible for a man and a woman to become one.
That's true.
And what's funny is she's starting her argument off with God's law supersedes man's law. Well, you realize those were the same arguments from the people who were trying to justify slavery in the Civil War. It doesn't matter what laws we pass. God clearly wants it this way.
And those people that helped write those words were humans. They were imperfect humans.
Right, but here we have a black woman using the same argument slave owners used to justify keeping slaves. She's using the same argument to justify not allowing same-sex couples to get married. I don't see how they don't see the irony here.
Well, okay, so let me address this in two ways. One is one of the misconceptions, or
into the mic.
Oh,
thank you.
Yes. So one of the things that, and it is kind of a myth or a trope that's out there, that black people are actually more homophobic than whites. And
you think that's a myth?
Well, I didn't think so. I really thought that, based on my upbringing, that, you have the machismo, etc. The numbers based on various surveys don't show that much of a difference, like within a 10-point, within 10 points, which is a little surprising. Which is actually very surprising. So, no, I don't think that we are more homophobic. The homophobic ones tend to get a lot more visibility. Okay. So that, right. And when you take a look at, music, rap music, you're even beginning to see a shift there. 5-10 years ago, no way. Right? Do we accept something like, someone like Frank Ocean and various other people who are beginning to emerge and say, I'm gay or I'm bi, etc. They're being accepted. Even Charlemagne the God out of New York, right? He's come out and said, I don't really have a problem with it. Now, that's really different than what I would have seen in hip hop culture 10, 15 years
Absolutely.
ago. Right? That's big. So I don't want to necessarily equate, hey, you of all people should be able to see and understand that what you're doing is exactly what's done to you, because, they've internalized it. It is still all about the religion. Now, I believe that if you strip the religion, then they would see it. But when you have bought in whole hog on religion, it's religion. The race almost doesn't play a factor in it.
Well, but that's the point, is that isn't the black community typically more religious than the white community?
Yeah, see, yeah.
And that goes back, of course, into slavery, and that Christians could not be considered slaves. So people found solace and they found safety nets by joining churches. And a lot of the songs of the Underground Railroad ended up being religious songs, and it's rooted in the black community as a positive thing, as a savior, this will help you get out of slavery. And then it was when all the white people, when it was free, when slavery was abolished, and black people were still treated absolutely horribly in this country, they found solace by meeting together at churches to help get over the cultural differences. And so churches have played a major, major role in growing and bonding the black community in a positive light. Mm-hmm. And so I think that the religiosity of the black community is a byproduct of that. And then that just tends to roll over into being more pro-Bible and more anti-anyone who's not biblical, which tends to appear as homophobic.
Now, I've only been to one black church, I think, in the whole time that I've went to different churches. But I got to say that I would imagine they would probably talk about homosexuality in the Bible and hardly ever talk about slavery in the Bible. Is that a wrong, or, I mean, it's a white guy saying that.
Anytime, I mean, I played drum. I don't know how active you were in church. Were you in a black church?
About it?
Yes,
were you in a black church?
Yes.
Okay, so that's basically where I grew up, is in black churches. And my playing the drums as a teenager, I was a musician for churches on and off for 3 or 4 years, and every one of them was a black church except one.
Okay.
And I never remember my preacher going after gays or doing hell and brimstone.
Right.
They party their asses off. It is about joy. It is about love. The funerals feel like a happy concert. Everybody wears bright colors. It's Holy Ghost music. It's community. It's The choir is dancing like with their shoulders bouncing, and I mean, it is not fire and brimstone and here's who we should hate. They're not hateful in the black churches like the white churches tend to be.
It is charging you up to face the weak. I mean, it can be really hard being black, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you walk in there empty, you are filled. See you in 7 days.
Yeah,
bring your money. But yeah,
right, right. No, and I don't ever remember it being negative. I remember it being, and even like the pastor's daughter was in the choir. She would wear low cut shirts. Sometimes people would say stuff to the pastor about it. He would tell them, "It's none of your business." And he would say, God's going to judge you for your thoughts, the way you're looking at my daughter, the way you're portraying my daughter, and the way you backbite and talk behind my daughter's back. So why don't you check your own self before you tell my daughter what she needs to wear? That's the kind of attitude he had. I loved that guy. He was really, really cool. He was all about the kids. He was all about, I did see him fake a couple of tears during an Easter sermon. He had a little bottle of water. A bowl of water he would dip his towel into and then squeeze it by his eye and pretend to be crying.
Yeah.
I saw him put on shows that made me feel like he was a little bit of a charlatan. But from the perspective of being a fire and brimstone preacher, he was not hateful. I don't remember a single sermon from a black preacher that had anything to do with treating anybody negatively. It was about forgiveness. It was about party. It was about when I die, y'all better not show up in black suit and tie with veils on. And he's like, Miss Mary, I want you to wear that big pink hat I like, and I want you to wear that yellow dress that I like so much. And he was talking to people about how he wanted them to celebrate his life, not mourn the death. And it was always a very positive, uplifting experience. And that's why I enjoyed the music so much. It was funk and blues and jazz and upbeat, and it was a blast. I don't remember there being a lot of negativity. And I think that might be a reason why we see this, because then if you go to a white church and they are screaming or just say any church, if you go to a church and they're screaming about how gays are the devil and we need to kill them or we need to get away from them and they're all going to hell, you're going to have negative feelings going there and leaving there. And the next time when you're sitting around the dinner table, you're going to talk about the pastor and be like, I got a gay friend at school. That guy's kind of crazy. And you're going to start feeling like, I'm a Christian, but he's a little harsh on gays. You're not going to feel like you're a part of that. You start to emotionally separate from those hateful words. The black churches hardly ever deal with homosexuality. Yeah. They party it up. They charge you up for the week, like Alex said. And then when you are asked about it, oh, well, if it's in the Bible, it's got to be wrong. But you're not constantly told to treat gays differently or to be disrespectful. So then when you're asked on a survey, are you okay with gay marriage? Well, no. Why? Well, it's against the Bible. White people, on the other hand, if you've had to defend it to people in your family members, you're like, man, y'all have been so nasty about it. I've kind of had to think about it. And now I'm not so against it as much as I thought I was. You know what I mean? But I don't think black people hardly are ever forced to even think about that stuff in churches because it's not about that. It's about partying.
It isn't. It really isn't. And that's why when you have people like Ken that get the microphone, they really are a minority voice in a lot of the black churches
within the minority community.
Within the minority community,
yeah.
And when you wind up looking at the numbers, yes, they do signify, a good number of church goers, right? I think they had a couple of months ago, like 42,000 churches that had signed up petitions. Like, okay, so does that mean that you're actually going to kick your gay members out of church? Are you going to? No, we don't hear about that, right? It's just, we'll throw support, because it's a good thing to support God's law. But again, that's a minority voice.
Okay. For this last clip, we're gonna double down. I have managed to fit into 1 minute 51 seconds a conversation of Rick Santorum and Glenn Beck.
They talked together?
They talked to each other. Everyone right now, unless you're driving, I want you to sit on your hands so that we can avoid involuntary facepalm accidents. Here's Rick Santorum on Glenn Beck's radio show.
Here's what's happened. The president, now the Supreme Court is going to deal with gay marriage, and we had David Barton on yesterday who showed us some things that came from the Department of Justice, their attorneys, on the changes that they will inflict on churches. Yeah. We will lose our tax-free status. They will start telling us who we can and cannot hire, what we can say, what we cannot, who we can marry, who we cannot. You're going to have to deal with that as president of the United States. What do you do there?
First of all, I love that he's already assuming Rick Santorum is going to be the president of the United States.
That's a joke.
I love it. Let's see what President Santorum... Sorry.
And that we...
I tried to get that out. President...
And that we will lose our tax exemption.
Right.
Yes.
Well, look, this is tantamount to government establishing religion. When the United States government comes in and says, this is what you're going to believe, this is how you're going to practice your faith. This is a new religion. This violates, in my opinion, the Establishment Clause of the Constitution, which says that the Congress shall make no law with respect to the establishment of religion. If the government goes around and tells churches what they have to believe in and what their doctrine is, that is something that is a violation of the First Amendment, and that's why I have actually some hope that the court's not going to get this wrong. That they're not going to go as far as some are suggesting, because there is no way that the left will stop at mere tolerance. They will demand conformity. They will demand it from the church. They will demand it from every institution. They'll demand it from businesses, and there will be no tolerance to a different point of view on this issue. And that's why, again, I'm hopeful that the court will not do what it does. But if it does, I will tell you, and I said this on Meet the Press a couple of weeks ago, that's the court's opinion. They're entitled to their opinion. The president and the Congress have an opinion, too, of what the Constitution is. And if they get it wrong, and the consequences are what I suspect they will be toward people of faith, then this president will fight back.
So here's the crazy part about this. Once again, we're back to the teenager straw man argument. If gay marriage is legalized on the federal level, then obviously every pastor will be forced to do gay marriages.
Yeah, right.
Are you kidding me? Show me one line of legislation that will require preachers to perform same-sex marriages.
But will they be able to hang a sign out in front of their church saying no gays? Back to the other article.
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, do they have to publicize that?
Yeah. I mean, no, they want you to come in there so they can wash the gay out.
That's
and
right.
Get your money.
Yeah.
It's this. Look.
What's that line, Alex?
This concept of if you require equality, then you are changing my religious doctrine. Is absurd. Yeah. If you say gay couples can be married and gay couples can have the same federal benefits, what gay people do on their own time is up to them. It doesn't matter. We should not restrain or withhold legal or financial benefits, whatever. We allow it on the federal level. How does that possibly change biblical doctrine? How are you going into churches and changing their beliefs? You're not changing the beliefs. You're not telling a church what they can or can't believe. Now, should you even have tax-exempt status if you're involved in politics and discriminating against people? Are you open to the public? Are you receiving federal benefits? Are you receiving tax breaks and tax cuts? Then why are you discriminating? Because you know what? If McDonald's held a sign up that says, no gay people allowed, I'm pretty sure the government would step in and say, that's discrimination, you can't do that. Or if McDonald's held a sign up that said, no Christians allowed, I'm sure the government would step in and say, hey, you are open to the public, you can't discriminate. That is not changing McDonald's doctrine. They're just saying there's a difference between your ideology and your behavior in society. You can believe whatever you want. You can think gay people are the scum of the earth. You can think Jesus is going to torture them all and burn them all in hell, but you got to let them into your restaurant or that's discrimination. We're just telling you to treat everybody else with equality. What is wrong with that? And why are these people taking it as, well, if you make gay marriage legal, you're changing the way I believe and you're forcing me to run my church. Therefore, it's a violation of the Establishment Clause? What is wrong with these people, Alex?
Well, I think it goes back to a fundamental belief that they have, which is the U.S. is a Christian nation, right? And that is the basis of the majority of the argument, right? It's a Christian nation, and once you start to introduce things like legalized same-sex marriage, you are changing its core, and you're violating what it is to be American. You're violating what it is to be Christian.
But it's the most basic straw man to say if you legalize gay marriage, you're changing Christian doctrine, or you're changing, you're telling churches what they should believe. I don't care. As legal as gay marriage gets, I will never support a bill that forces a preacher to marry to.
And I don't think anyone would ever introduce
to marry
that.
a gay couple.
Right. And no one's
hopefully not.
I don't see that happening.
I don't either.
Right. I mean, in fact, a couple of months ago, this was really interesting. Some churches are already seeking legal advice on how they can reincorporate themselves to get behind other exemptions to protect themselves against the Supreme Court. I mean, they really do think it's going to happen.
It's funny. We look to the Supreme Court for all sorts of rulings, and I've had numerous conservatives in debates quote Supreme Court decisions for years and years and years and years and years on justifying the stuff that they're doing. Whether it's this Rowlett thing where they were doing public prayer, invocation for city council meetings. They invoked multiple Supreme Court decisions. And then as soon as that Supreme Court decision disagrees with your ideology, you want to go, these are just human beings in robes that are fallible.
Yeah.
Right. So they're perfect until they disagree with you, and then they're anti-God, and they're just people with robes on.
Yeah.
So let's resist. So whenever they back us up, let's follow their rules, and then let's show other people how we get to break rules because of Supreme Court decisions in the past, and that's how much we put them on a pedestal. And as soon as they say treat everybody with respect, let's resist in the name of God.
Pretty much.
Thanks for clearing that up, Alex.
You're welcome.
Coming up next, we're going to fact check your mom. Not your mom specifically.
You talking about my mom?
We're talking about it up next.
Here's an excerpt from Fear of Physics by Lawrence Krauss.
The set of tools physicists have to describe nature is limited. Most of the modern theories you read about began life as simple models by physicists who didn't know how else to start to solve a problem. These simple little models are usually based on simpler little models, and so on, because the class of things that we do know how to solve exactly can be counted on the fingers of one, maybe two hands. For the most part, physicists follow the same guidelines that have helped keep Hollywood movie producers rich. If it works, exploit it. If it still works, copy it.
Fear of Physics by Lawrence Krauss. Find this audiobook and many more at atheistaudiobooks.com. The facts you won't hear in church.
I am David Glenn Curry Fitzgerald, the author of Nailed and The Complete Heretic's Guide to Western Religion, Book 1, The Mormons, and I am the fourth listener.
For the first 80 or so, 90 or so thousand years, nearly 100, not living more than 25 to 30 years at the most, then probably dying of their teeth, if they were lucky, or of the other needless mammalian things that show us that we bear the stamp, as Darwin put it, of our lowly origin, the appendix we don't need anymore, innumerable other shortcomings of our design. We're designed to live on the savannah that we've escaped from. Terrible disease, suffering, misery, malnutrition, and fear. Where do the earthquakes come from? Why is there an eclipse? What are the shooting stars doing? And awful cults of sacrifice to try and ward off what are in fact natural events, and war, and rape, and the kidnap of other peoples and the enslavement of them. All of this goes on. Terrible struggle, sacrifice, pain, misery, and above all, fear and ignorance. And you have to believe this if you believe in monotheism. For the first 97, 98,000 of this, Heaven watches with indifference. Oh, there they go again. That whole civilization's just died out. Well, what are you going to do? They're raping each other again. They're poisoning. They think that the other tribe has poisoned the well, so they're going to kill all their children. 3,000 years ago at the most, it's decided, no, we've got to intervene now.
You're listening to Dogma Debate on Secular Media Network.
Imagine a moment, you're the thing that's made of light. From your perspective of speed, anywhere, zero time. We on the warp drive, you still use propellers. How you in the galactic, you struggle with interstellar. We barely scratching the surface, there's no mistaking it. Cause at the smaller scales, no objects, only relationships. I'm not a star, I'm just another son who can't finish a rhyme cause I'm too busy starting another one. If you think I've started, I've just begun. All the stars in the sky, I've labeled and numbered them. Even calculated the circumference and mass of at least 721. All while I was locating another one. They brush you off cause you think ignorance is lovely. And love me because I promote a system of discovery, which isn't even legal in your country. You sneak it in and bump me, and secretly enjoy me like a junkie. Metaphor swords, split them with the course, then horse drilling them, injecting them with some more venom, forcing them to learn scores of a
This conversation will continue at login.dogmadebate.com immediately after this program, live on video. Multiple account levels to choose from. Like we said, go to GoFundMe.com/atheistaudiobooks and help some kids get some secular audiobooks out. Secular books, period. We're going to make some physical copies as well as digital. So go check it out. Multiple rewards, even as low as $5, $8. Go check it out. And then, like I said, if we hit that $5,000 mark by next Wednesday, not a single commercial break the entire show. Alrighty, it's time to fact check your
mom
or
mom.
You want to do mom? You want to do cousin?
Cousin.
It's time to fact check your stepmom. That's what we're gonna do. Because they will. They'll get in your head. What?
No, fact check your mama. There you go.
Fact check that boy.
Fact check your mama.
Fact check that boy.
That needs to play right before this.
Yeah. Can you say it one more time?
Fact check your mama.
Okay, wait. One more time. Just no paper rattling. Everybody quiet.
Fact check your mama.
All right, we're gonna pull that audio. That's gonna be the new
Wait,
intro.
watch the time. 175.40.
Yeah,
right
175, guys.
Fact check your mama.
It's time. All right, so I know my mama told me a lot of stuff, including I'm going to start at the back because this is one that plagued me for years, and I still hear it all the time. Sugar makes kids go bonkers. You see a kid bouncing off the walls, going crazy, doing all kinds of craziness, and you go, gosh, kid, how much chocolate have you had today? And come to find out, they actually did have some candy. You think that's why they're hyper. Let's look into that. In reality, ask any healthy eating expert or kid doctor. They'll tell you that a certain amount of sugar in a kid's diet is okay. Sometimes a teaspoon of lightly sugared water can even soothe an unsettled baby. Some kids get too much sugar too often, but even so, lots of research and studies have firmly concluded that sugar does not cause hyperactivity. Now, for the counterpoint to this, do kids get hyper when you give them candy? Yes, but it's not because of the sugar. I think it's from the sheer joy
of getting the candy.
Yes. I feel the same way. When I know I'm about to do something awesome, I get excited and pumped up. Donovan caressing his Monster energy drink, and there's not even any sugar in that. Yeah. And so it's one of these things that you can get. I mean, when I tell Brandy I'm about to go get her some wine, she instinctively starts giggling and gets in a good mood. It's not that alcohol causes the giggling. It's that dopamine release of happiness that you are about to enjoy yourself. And as they are enjoying themselves, the dopamine continues to release. And when a kid gets happy, a kid jumps around. So it's not necessarily the sugar that's giving them energy. Because if that were the case, we would have energy out the ass all the time because we eat so much sugar in everything we eat. It's not an energy-generating product.
Poor Talissa's cereal.
Which then explains why I can belt out a song while I'm running and dance while I'm running because that's not normally something I would do. But it's
Right.
the dopamine release.
Right. It's a dopamine release that makes you happy.
Can we get that on video? That must be hilarious.
Yeah, I'd have to follow her around like a stalker and catch her at that right moment.
Oh, that doesn't happen normally?
No.
No, okay.
I don't have time for that. She runs when I'm sleeping. Are you kidding me? I'd have to get up before 10 to catch her. All right, drawing a line through this one. Donovan, you go next.
Daddy longlegs are the most venomous spiders to humans.
I thought we covered this one. Did we not do this on air? Maybe we talked about it off air.
Maybe we talked about it off air.
I'll do it anyway. They're the most venomous spiders.
But can't bite us, so are considered harmless.
Yeah, I've always heard like their legs are too long or their teeth are too small or something, so they couldn't bite us, but they're extremely venomous.
Right, so in reality, daddy longlegs do indeed have venom. But to know that they're the most venomous spiders suggests that someone somewhere at some time reported having been bitten by one, and that the results of the bite were examined and recorded. No such record exists anywhere in the world. There are also no records anywhere to indicate that toxicological tests on the effects of daddy longlegs spiders' venom to have been undertaken of any kind of any mammal whatsoever.
Why is that? Why can't we? Why?
Well, I don't know.
Are their teeth really too small?
I'm not an entomologist. Oh wait, that would be regular insects.
No, that's bug people. I learned that from my buddy Neil.
I'm not an arachnophologist.
Oh my god.
I'm actually not scared of spiders, but
all right, Alex, you can pick one.
Pick one. Yeah.
Pick one doesn't have a line through it.
Yeah. I'm just. This one is really interesting. Why I get this one?
Hold on. Let me guess. Let me guess. It's either going to be
slaves built the pyramid.
I knew that's where he was going.
Of course, you left that one for me. Thanks, David.
I was gonna have you do chameleons changing colors.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
I think I wrote a name down on every derogatory one. I put Alex's name down next to him to help him out.
Slaves built the pyramids.
I'm so uncomfortable.
God,
right
if
now.
you guys had video right now, he's doing the greatest facial expressions.
In reality, boycott. In reality, enough archaeological evidence has been uncovered around the Great Pyramid alone to show that the men working on its construction, estimated to around 10,000 of them over a 30-year period, were allocated comfortable accommodations, were fed meat at least weekly, had got good medical care, were most likely well remunerated for their work, and were given honorable burials in stone tombs close to the base of the pyramid where they died.
So they were actually paid and treated very well.
Well, yeah, and actually this is one of the conversations that we tend to get when we start talking about Exodus in general. You know, what is the veracity of that story in the Bible?
Sure.
Talk about, the pyramids themselves. And
so instead of looking back at the pyramids being built as though they were all beaten and whipped and slaves, maybe it was more along the lines of like, you have these small towns nowadays, and then like one, Caterpillar, the big tractor manufacturer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They move into town, and that's like the place to work. If you don't work there, you really don't have a job, or you're at, Starbucks or a 7-Eleven. Outside of that, you work for the city or you work at Caterpillar. And it's got, the city itself has 7,000 people and Caterpillar employs 5,000 of them. It's one of those type situations where most of the people work there because that's the source of the income. Maybe it was more like that. Maybe it was more like that was the big place in town to really be treated well and to work, even though the work was extremely hard.
It was gut-wrenching, but, we've seen that they took a lot of pride in that work, and people just don't believe, or archaeologists don't believe, that slaves built it.
Wow.
So this weekend I went to play disc golf, and there's a group of guys that always show up really early, like right at the daylight. And one of them goes, "Aren't you that atheist guy?" Because I always wear my T-shirts when I go play. And I go, yeah, that's me. And one of them goes, "I'm a born again." And the other guy goes, "Well, I'm kind of a deist." And so the deist start telling me why he doesn't believe a lot of their stuff. And the other guy goes, "Well, yeah, but the pyramids and Easter Island, nobody knows what that is. That's why God." And I go, have you ever actually tried to find out if we didn't
But
really
did you just
know.
Tide goes in, Tide goes out me?
Yes, he did.
Because that's not acceptable.
I was like, maybe you should really look up an article not written by someone you know, but by a scientist to find out, or an archaeologist to find out. We actually do know what built.
Yeah,
the
stop
pyramids.
reading your brother's blog.
And I finished it before the other guy started talking about God and the gaps with him. I finished it by saying, and if you're still watching the History Channel, just stop. Just stop.
Yeah.
Because your next step's going to be going aliens, and we just don't want to hear it. And then I told him how much I appreciated him even getting involved in the conversation.
Yeah, of course. And that was a good response to him, too. Here's a good one that my mom always told me. You will get arthritis from cracking your knuckles. You pop your knuckles, bad stuff happens. You can't do that. It's the sound that it makes, that it sounds like bone on bone or something horrible is happening in there. In reality, arthritis is an inflammation of the joints. There are at least 7 diseases that specifically result in joint inflammation and associated discomfort, as well as up to 20 other conditions that can result in similar symptoms.
God. Oh my! Yeah.
Oh, I feel a good one over here.
Oh, jeez, you guys are nuts.
That's good. Hold on, I'm not done. Cracking of the joints has never been found to be a contributor to any of them, nor to any other related or unrelated joint ailment. I think it's just little air pockets. No big deal. Crack your knuckles. Tell them David Smalley said so.
So this is probably just showing how young I am, but I always thought that your mouth had taste buds on it and that they were all in region. So if I had to eat something I didn't like that was like really tart or something, I'd try to throw it into the back of my mouth so it wouldn't hit the sides where the tarts are. The tarts taste buds are. And sure enough, in reality, the old taste bud map is inaccurate. Mm-hmm. The different taste sensations come from all parts of the tongue. So I was taught wrong in science class as a kid.
You know what? I know we did the bulls are enraged by the color red thing. I know we covered that one. Humans have 5 senses. We covered that one too, didn't we? Yep.
I don't know. We talked about all of them after the show too.
Yeah, so I know we... And then we did Columbus too, didn't we?
No, I don't remember us doing it live. I'm telling you.
I think we actually did the Columbus one. I'll do it anyway. Columbus... Actually, Alex, could you read the Columbus one?
Oh, hell. Where is it? Oh, hell.
Here's...
What's wrong, Al?
Columbus was an innocent explorer who was only trying to discover the new world.
Thank you. I'll take it from there. In reality, many scholars now agree that his 4 voyages around the Caribbean were marked by pillaging and a fledgling slave trade that looked a lot like genocide.
Just a little like genocide.
Yeah, just a little.
Just a tad.
Yeah. Alex, could you read...
What else we got?
Upper right-hand corner. Go ahead. I need silence in the studio, please.
Chameleons change color to blend in with surroundings.
Oh, do they? Let's see if that's true. In reality, chameleon color changing is typically triggered by physical, physiological, and emotional changes. If they're feeling fussy, say angry or afraid or combative, they'll change colors using their chromatophores.
I got 2 daughters that pass. I guess they would count as chameleons too.
They just change the color depending on their emotion?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. All right, Donovan, you can go ahead.
One that I hear come up about once a year at the office is you can't fold a piece of paper in half more than 7 times. In reality, you can. Wow. Just kidding. Given that there are far more types of paper in the world than just standard A4 copy paper, it seems absurd that anyone would have applied such a generalized statement to the topic, especially considering all the variations of paper thickness that exist, as well as the fact that some paper, such as that used to print newspapers on, commonly in enormous rolls of extraordinary length.
You know, I think a lot of these things come from things that were difficult to do, and then were turned into tricks or magic tricks or illusions or bets. And then it would turn into, like, for example, ripping a phone book in half.
Right.
There is a strategy. There are a couple of different strategies,
Angle,
including putting one in the oven for a little while and heating it up to make it more brittle, or changing the angle, or pushing the papers together. There are ways to do it, but then you could say, oh, it's impossible to rip a phone book in half. And the people who do it are just using trickery to get it done, or have already started cutting it. And then over time, these things get to you just can't do it. And I bet you the paper folding thing is very similar to that, because I've got a magic book. I don't even know if it's considered a magic book, or if I've even got it around here in my bookshelf. What? That was good. That was good. It was basically ways to like trick your friends, and like you could like stand against a wall and lock your elbows and push against the wall, and then bet one of your friends. You'll bet him $5 that he can't, make your elbows bend by pushing you in the back. Well, that's just basic physics. You can't cause enough pressure to be on someone to make their elbows unlock. Little tricks like you put a cigarette on a table and you make your hands move around like it's magic, and you lightly blow behind the cigarette and it rolls forward. Kids think you're moving stuff with your mind. That paper folding thing is in there. And it tells you to bet your friend that they can't fold it 7 times, and most people can't. If you try to just grab a normal sheet of paper and fold it, you can't. But they show you in this book exactly how to fold it 7 times, even a regular piece of printer paper. The same way with, I bet you can't step through this paper, and you hand them a pair of scissors. Say, see if you can step through the paper. Naturally, people cut a hole right in the middle. They'll shove their foot through, and by the time they get up to their waist, they rip the paper open. And then they show you in the book how to cut the paper strategically to where you can open it up so that your whole family could walk through it, right? Little tricks like that. I think a lot of times things start off like that, and then people try and fail. Our parents tried this stuff and failed, and by the time we come out and they start talking to us, they're like, well, there's a couple of things you just can't do. You can't move cigarettes with your brain. You can't step through paper. You can't fold it more than 7 times. That's kind of what's happening, I think, with a lot of these things that we see as myths. Were probably just difficult things that people looked at as illusions.
And I believe they did that on Mythbusters and ended up doing it like 14 or something, 13 or something like that. That was awesome. It's giant, huge sheet of paper. It was awesome.
Here's one, just the lead balloon thing, too. Did you guys see that on Mythbusters?
Yes.
They made a lead balloon and it floated. It was amazing.
So Led Zeppelin's real? That's awesome. Sorry. It's my favorite band. What am I going to do? I never get to talk about Led Zeppelin. I appreciate you so much, David. You're so patient with me.
One that I learned from, and I really did learn this when I read this paper, actually. Food cooked with alcohol doesn't retain any alcoholic content. Here's my admission. I have fed my children food that was cooked with beer. We hear all the time there are barbecue recipes that are made with beer. There are all sorts of things, and then you just go, oh yeah, stuff that's made with alcohol. The
Jack
alcohol,
Daniel's barbecue, something
Jack
like that.
Daniel. We eat that all the time. TGI Fridays, Jack Daniel's ribs, flat iron steak. That stuff is amazing.
Still has it.
It says, in reality, it's open to a lot of variables, but chiefly the type, strength, and volume of alcohol used, the size of the pot and pan, and the severity of the heat applied are the main determining factors in the alcohol content of the finished product, as well as what's being cooked and how it's being cooked. But as a general rule, you would need to cook something for at least 3 hours to have every trace of alcohol evaporate, dissipate, or otherwise cook off. So then why is it that my kids eat, Jack Daniel's ribs or something from TGI Fridays and they don't get drunk, or they don't? Is it just because it's a small it's a small amount?
Yeah, it's a small by volume, it's a small amount.
And you are eating along with the alcohol, which dissipates some of that.
I don't know, I'm going to be sucking down some barbecue sauce later, man.
That was an interesting sound coming from Alex. So it's not that it's bad for you to do it, right?
No.
But you just know that you're giving your kids a little bit of alcohol.
The French do it all the time.
I was going to say, is it really hurting them unless they're just abusing it?
Unless they're French. Because then they're French.
Don't be racist.
Hey. Je ne sais pas.
I don't understand that.
Okay.
Alex, can you read the one at the top left-hand corner, please? Not the one that says false fact, the one right under that.
The Great Wall of China?
Yeah, if you could say that into the microphone. That'd be great. Hey, Alex, do you have any facts for us today? Okay, go ahead. What?
Really?
Just read it.
Okay. The Great Wall of China can be seen from space.
That's okay. We can fade that out. In reality, according to NASA, the Great Wall isn't really visible to the unaided eye from orbit, and especially isn't visible from the moon. You can, however, see it in radar images taken from space. Well, those are zoomed in and all of that good stuff. All right, Donovan, hit us with one.
Vitamin C is an effective treatment against the common cold. Yes? Come on, all you nutritionists. In reality, it's not. While nobody's arguing the vitamin C is bad for you, it certainly is not. There's been much research into the perceived benefits of vitamin C in combining the good old common cold. To date, there's been little, if any, evidence uncovered to support the use of vitamin C at the onset of a cold to reduce the length, severity, or frequency of colds.
Okay, so there are products like Emergency,
Yeah.
1,000 milligrams of vitamin C that I've mixed into drinks before. They're almost like an energy drink. It's fine. It makes me feel a little better when I take it. Is that a placebo thing?
Yes.
It's totally fake.
Yes.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
homeo.
It's kind of like remember
there's real
Airborne?
vitamin C in there.
Yeah. If you remember Airborne had a lot of claims
Right.
up front too, and
They
had to
still
take
sell
them.
that stuff.
I know, but they don't sell it the way that they did because they lost that class action a few years ago. So they've had to remarket it, but they are still selling it.
So is it that they don't know, or is that it just doesn't show any results? Or?
Okay, so I remember this. There was a study that showed a megadose. I mean, a ridiculous number of vitamin C might help with some of the symptoms, but it actually didn't really help with the cold at all. But
I think for the emergency stuff, I think there's so much caffeine, energy supplement in there. I mean, because look, I can have a cold and I can drink a Monster, and for about an hour and a half, I feel like Superman, and that's not a vitamin C supplement. But the energy, I think, makes you feel like you're feeling better. It's like it doesn't help with the symptoms, but it just.
So Superman, I got a question for you. We're talking about vitamin C a lot. When do we get to talk about vitamin D?
See, what are you doing that for? You just every time.
So I'm going to derail that by saying, Midol, right? For women and their PMS, that's one of the medicines they sell.
Mhm.
Well, all it is ibuprofen and caffeine.
Right.
And they add the caffeine because it induces the other medicine to act faster. That's what the caffeine's there for. So anytime you have caffeine with any medication, you're just making it work quicker.
See, I've been out of Advil before, and Brandy's like, "Here, you can take some Midol." I'm just
It's
scared
fine.
I want to grow boobs or something. I didn't know if I could take that.
You'll just
You'll
lactate a
feel
little
better.
bit. You'll be all
Oh
right.
my
It's not that you grow bigger.
Did you just say I'll lactate?
He did say that. He said that
Yeah, they won't get bigger. You'll just lactate.
for 30 days.
Wait, bigger? What are you trying to say? I know we did the blood thing.
Okay.
I know we did the raindrop thing too.
We did?
Yep. You
I didn't even know that one.
I don't think you. I just found your taste bud thing. How about the body heat dissipates mainly through the head?
We did that
I've
one.
always thought it was through the hands. Is that what the thing says?
No. Read it.
In reality, use just as much heat per square inch through your head as you do through the rest of your body. A fact. Well, yeah, but your head has a broad.
Yeah,
it's big. It's a big.
This is actually this is true with babies who don't really regulate heat really well.
So putting a little beanie or a little hat on a baby can still help them stay
on
warm.
a baby, yes, but then once they're able to.
And I feel warmer when I have a thing on my head too.
Yeah, but your body's got clothes on it already, so it's always going to feel like the place where you're getting the most heat to leave because you're not covering it as often.
Right, but still, it's a pretty large surface considering other parts of your body. And if you cover it, you're reducing a place where heat can escape. So it can still make you warmer by putting a covering over your head.
So in the wintertime, of course you're in Texas, but
what's winter?
In
I
the
don't
real
understand this
winter,
winter
in a
you
real
speak of.
winter, when you put on all that gear, where's the places that always get the hottest? Your hands, your feet, and your head.
I don't know. That's a difficult question because I'm hot all over.
I think we did it. I don't think you could finish it any better than than Alex being hot.
And that's how you just end the show.
Over.
Done. You have to crinkle up the paper. It's part of it. Yeah, very good. Here, I'll take that. All right. I can't play this whole song anymore. So we're out of here. Conversation is going to continue right now at login.dogmadebate.com, where we're going to be talking about a personal incident that happened involving messages regarding Caitlyn Jenner and how I was able to speak directly with an MMA fighter in a locker room about this issue, and someone I really, really respect. So I'm going to talk about how that happened, how that all went down in the after show right now. Until then, the conversation continues at facebook.com/dogmadebate, dogmadebate.com, and log in at dogmadebate.com. Be sure to go to gofundme.com/audiobooks. And let's help get some more good products out for the secular community. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Donovan. Thank you, Brandy. We're out of here. And thank you, John. John, I'm about to call you on Skype so we can do this after show together. I know he's listening.
Live production.
See you guys next week, where hopefully there's no commercial breaks. Let's hit that 5,000 mark.
That would be awesome.
Peace.
மாமா நோட்ஸ் எடுத்துக்கோ அப்படியே கையில ஸ்நாக்ஸ் எடுத்துக்கோ